Okay, at this time, I would like to call to order the Fiscal Services Committee meeting for Monday, October 28th, 2024. I'd ask you to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. And I would just make this notice that a copy of the agenda for this meeting may be found on the county website under the tab for the legislature. At this time, I'd ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have roll call, please.
Benton.
Here.
Tui.
Here.
Padu.
Here.
Hotel.
Here.
Skevich.
Here.
Benega. Feller.
Here.
Keenan.
Here.
1 out.
First on our agenda is budget review for the Orange County Soil and Water Conservation District. Kevin, you want to come up? Kevin Sumner, Director. Second motion, thank you. Okay. Kevin, you want to just give a little bit of a brief overview of your budget for this coming year?
Okay, well, the big thing, if you're looking at last year's numbers, last year we had a special appropriation of $600,000 that's going towards the construction of our current black dirt flood mitigation project. So if you took that away, you would see that this year's request is a 3% increase over last year's. So the number that you see there for 2025, if that's in front of you, the 286,613, that would be a 3% increase over what we received last year when you exclude the special project money. So happy to try to answer any other questions that you may have about our budget.
Okay. Any questions? Legislator Tortel.
Thank you, Sean. Just education for the public that might be watching. Explain a little bit of what this budget covers. Just 2 sentences if you can.
Well, our budget is an amalgamation of many different sources. For the 286,000 that we get from the county, we'll be receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of 700,000 from the state. So in some ways, we consider the county money to be a platform from which we are able to then multiply that money, because most of these state funding sources, they require a local match.
Right.
So as far as what it's used for, it kind of goes into the general pool and supports staff time, office expenses, things like that. It's really not specifically earmarked for any one part of our programming. So it all goes into the general fund, and a lot of the other funds that we get from the state, they are for specific purposes like farm project construction. So the county money is sort of again, like I say, a platform to cover expenses that aren't covered by these other grants that we secure from other sources.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, the Orange County Water Authority. Could I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second, Legislator Patel, Legislator Tui. Okay, would you like to give a little bit of an overview?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd start off just with some of the proposed activities for 2025. You'll see in the budget that we have $100,000 that has been budgeted for the leak detection program for municipalities. That's been a very successful program for the Orange County Water Authority. In 2023, a total of 647 miles were surveyed using that program. There were 177 leaks that were detected in municipal water lines. And the resulting savings were 224 million gallons of treated water that was being lost per year, that through that leak detection program, we were able to save. 224 million gallons of treated water. So if you can imagine, treated water not only detects what be processed, but it's using energy and everything else. So by identifying those leaks and repairing those, that's savings for the municipalities. The annual savings is estimated at $9.1 million. So it's a very good return on investment for that 100,000 that's put into the program. You will see that there's a significant reduction in the county taxation. That is, if you recall, this past year, we completed a water quality improvement program, DEC funded project for land acquisition around Browns Pond. And in the 24 budget, we had additional dollars that were provided so that we could complete that project. And so that's part of the reason for the significant reduction. New initiatives, we are, the idea there is we've asked for an increase in that line to $200,000 from 100,000. We would like to pursue future opportunities for the water quality improvement program, which is the DEC application. Under that program, DEC provides 75% of the project cost for either conservation easements and or land acquisition. By having this money in new initiatives within our budget, we will be in a position to aggressively pursue those grant opportunities as they arise. And Unica, is there anything you want to add?
Covered most of it.
Maybe the conservation?
Yes, so the Water Authority, our longstanding conservation educator, Mary Lynn Malone, retired at the end of last school year. She is staying on part-time to help the transition with the new educators, and she's also doing some virtual programming from her home in Tennessee. We did hire a new conservation educator who has hit the ground running and is doing wonderful things. She's doing a lot of online promotion of the Water Authority. If you look at our Facebook page, she's done a lot of more posting and promotional materials for our programming. She's also modernizing our websites and those sorts of things. So we've made great strides with the conservation education program.
Any questions or comments? Legislator Tui.
Thanks, Chairman. Can you guys just briefly describe some of the land preservation that you were successful with in 2024? For everybody that may not know that.
Yeah, so through the water quality improvement program, the area that grant focused on was Browns Pond, which is water supply for the city of Newburgh. And we were able to acquire, I'm going to forget the acreage. Oh, it's right.
It's a little more than 23 acres, 83 acres.
83 acres, which was acquired for $1.2 million. Again, the state picked up 75% of that cost. So the Water Authority share was 25%. And we're in the process of acquiring a 13-acre land conservation easement around that same water body. That will then ensure that that water is, that surface water is protected as a potable water supply.
Just want to follow up the importance of that. It's Browns Pond is as you said, now supplying Newburgh because, yes, was it, Washington?
Washington Lake's contaminated.
Washington Lake is contaminated now forever, so, the efforts to, keep Brown's Pond safe is of utmost importance.
Thank you. Thank you. Legislator,
The appropriated surplus for 2024, which we haven't spent anything on, we expect to get a one-time check that comes in for that, the second half of the year.
I think it's unused funds from the Water Authority's previous budgets that we haven't used. It's been sitting there in surplus. So instead of using taxation, we'll use our surplus. Is that correct?
So you dropped that to 2025, you took like 40,000 less. for 2025.
Correct.
Yes.
What was left in, that's what was left at, December 31st, 2023.
So basically, you're under.
Mhm.
other questions or comments? All right, Legislator Tonto.
I believe this is a question for Deb. We have this handout here, and it is executive recommended budget, some type of an adjustment. The first two lines are for the Water Authority. And I'm not seeing a difference between this and what is actually printed in our books, so.
I don't think I have.
Are you talking about the executive adjustment for 2025?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's what I believe he was referring to was originally it was all in county taxation, but we realized when we were going through the budget that there was leftover surplus.
Yeah, so that.
yeah, but the surplus was already indicated here, that the two lines are matching.
Correct, as one is a reduction in taxation, the other is increasing the surplus.
It should match. That's the point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Are
this
you
is,
looking-
this is just your
showing
question on
what's
the
in the
fifth
book?
column.
yeah, it's the first two on this, and then the first two columns on page 281. Yeah, I thought this was some type of an addendum.
Oh, this is just the executive, changes to the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. And the first item we need to deal with is the following. And I'd like to get a motion, please. A request to create one skilled laborer, grade 8, step 6, and abolish senior groundskeeper, grade 7, step 6, upon incumbent obtaining permanent status. It's legislative request number 226.
So
Can we get a
moved.
motion in a second? All right. Legislator Menuda and Legislator Minority Leader Duke. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. So this request is to abolish a senior groundskeeper and create a skilled labor position. This is for an existing position on our golf maintenance crew, and it results from a desk audit that was done and recommendations from our HR department to take these steps.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Carried. All right. Let's move on to the budget. And we'll be dealing with both parks and special recreation facilities under one motion. It's like could I get a motion? So moved. Legislator Tui, Legislator Menuda. Okay, give us a little overview if you wouldn't mind, please.
Certainly, thank you. The first one, the parks maintenance budget is for operation and maintenance of our county-owned parkland. Our rail trails and museums that the county owns and operates. The proposed 2025 budget is approximately an increase of $2.2 million from the 2024 budget. This is mostly due to increases in personal services and employee benefits within the budget. And that was partially from the CSEA contract increases, but mostly from additional positions that were approved midway through 2024 for the parks maintenance. And the funding for this budget is very critical to improving our parks and continuing to maintain them.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments at this time? Minority Leader Padu?
You're going over the whole budget right now, right?
Yes, well, both sections, both parks
I
and
see the
special
questions
recreation.
that you answered for me, but I'm still a little confused because on this paper that I had of positions that are funded but vacant, you have 30, is that spread out through your whole department? And all the areas, or
What position?
it isn't specific to me? That's why I asked you that.
I think it's probably.
Yeah, I thought there might, but that's not in the answer, so I'm not sure.
I'm sure it's probably.
The seasonal positions are, they kind
Come
of,
and go.
they come and go throughout the year. So when that one seasonal position meets the maximum number of hours, or that individual has to leave, whether it's to go back to school or whatever, it's kind of a revolving door.
Okay, then as I go through your contractual expenses, I notice that you don't even have a line 57990, which is austerity contractual. And when I review the budget, I always try to go through the contractual expenses from 23, 24, see where the, adjustment could be made. And it would allow your department to do that. We do it in a lot of other departments, and it's unfortunate. I think it's actually a little weird that you don't have a contractual thing. So if you don't spend, you have $10,000 and you spend 5,000, or you need to spend 5, you can pick out where you decide to take that from. So I wanted to make a motion to put in that line 579990 in the amount of minus 25,000, which will allow you to decide. You probably won't spend it anyway, because I know there's a lot of extra things that you're budgeted for, but that you won't spend it on.
If I'm correct, I believe you also have to state where that 25,000 is coming from.
No, he decides where it's, I'm increasing a austerity contractual.
But if we do a negative or a positive on any item,
Okay, you have to have a revenue source also.
Well, what do I say, contractual expenses, because I'm not micromanaging the department.
So no, that would be the expense piece, but the revenue piece would be either county taxation, state aid, federal aid, or other revenues.
Well, county taxation,
So you're gonna add 25,000
Minus.
in taxation,
minus
So they're gonna
25,000.
minus 25.
And that's not micromanaging, that's letting him decide, because there's a lot of lines. If you review the budget, I go over them line by line and see the difference, and the difference adds up to quite a bit more than that. So I'm figuring he does a great job, I'm sure you can find that money and not even spend it.
Just a clarification. Could I get a second on that,
Second,
legislative?
Okay, yes, Legislator Menuda.
So you're adding a line but decreasing. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, it's an austerity contractual, that means that he can decide whatever line it is. I'm not trying to micromanage it. There's many lines in here. Look, I'll give you an example. Like safety, one of the bigger ones was
What page?
on page 288, specialty payment. That's just an example. If he doesn't spend $30,000 of it, which if you look at it, I'm only asking for 25 in all those lines. And if you review all the lines, you can see where there's multiple savings that we don't have to tax people on and just sit in his budget. That's what I'm trying to do here, just keep the budget a little tighter and charge less taxation for doing it.
I'd rather just see a single line or something else be taken if that's the case, otherwise approve it as it is, because that's just confusing throughout the year. You gotta make up $25,000 between different areas.
Yeah, that's in a lot of different departments' budgets. And they're pretty good at it, actually. As a matter of fact, county executive added some minuses himself this year, which is unusual for me to see that.
The only thing I'd like to say to that is, we increased our contractual line intentionally because we have additional parks responsibilities that are coming online that we're trying to, accommodate the development of our parks. We have Sugarloaf Mountain, which we just acquired the property. We're working towards opening that up to the public, so there's additional contractual expenses that go along with that, whether it's, porta potties, grounds maintenance, et cetera. So,
Yeah, frankly, with all the things that we're doing, I would expect to see a lot more going into this, not taken out.
Additionally, with the increase in staff, we're able to provide more maintenance to our buildings and our parks. So our commodities that we use for maintenance and repairs will also increase.
Chairwoman Benelli.
Thank you. And as you said, the county executive in preparing the budget did include that in some departments and others were left. And there's a reason that it wasn't included in this department. And that's what I actually wanted to say, but both Deanna and Travis have explained why it is not in here. But I think we also need to clarify, where are you proposing are you proposing to add it under contractual expenses on the book we're looking at on page 288?
Yes, we're adding that line.
I understand. that.
Okay.
No, I understand that because.
I'm not
Parks-
taking them out for them.
No, I understand.
Okay.
No, I understand what you're trying to do. But Parks has two different components to their budget. And they also have special recreation as well.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify it was for this.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, it's for Clark, not the special revenue. I did not do that.
But I think that both the commissioner and the deputy commissioner have given you some valid reasons as to why it's there. And we have been on a quest to try to do a lot with our parks. That's been one of our highlights this past year. We want to continue to do so. So I think it might tie their hands a little bit.
Do you know how much the budget returned last year from Parks?
It's very similar.
I have the actual, I don't have the budget.
You have the what?
I don't have the budget at the top of my head. I do have the actual, but I can get you that.
I'm just, if you look at it every year, you'll see it. They return, whether they return 100,000 or 40,000 or 50,000, 25,000 is not a big ask here. I know they can do that. They know they can probably do it. And I understand their concerns about increase, but they haven't increased, so it isn't, I mean, I'm just trying to do our job a little better. That our job is the responsibility to review the budget. And that's what we do. So when we see there's overestimated expenses, I always propose to cut it down. It's like I'm cutting it down to nothing or trying to micromanage. It's the fact that we work for the taxpayers. We know we can do a better job. That's all we're asking him to do.
For contractual, their actual expenses are $1,079,579. I don't know the budget at the top of my head right now.
Legislator Menuda, you had your hand up before. You still have a question?
I don't agree with this. I think by helping the taxpayer, we're actually making our parks better. And I think they're gonna need more money, not less. So I'm not gonna be for this.
Legislator Tortel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if we go to page 287. There,
What line?
I'm getting it, 287, 573410. Now, I come from a park background. I know how slim some park budgets can be and how inflated they can be. So I'm looking here and we budgeted 58,800 yet, and that's pretty much the June. The planting season is pretty far in advance, and we'd only spent $8,978. This year, this year it's being budgeted for $36,000.
I think that's all relates to when we actually ordered the seed materials. Yeah, and the bids, and we did reduce the amount budgeted by quite a bit last year.
Okay, and then, I mean, if you're talking about, micro managing, which I do not want to do to you either, but you're talking about 25,000 out of a $2 million increase. That's, pennies off of the increase. And then if you go down to rental miscellaneous, 575,820, it's about 4 or 5 up from the bottom. Year to date in June, you had spent $13,878. We had budgeted for 45,500. I understand some of those rental contracts will come up at the end after this budget was already done. And in 2023, you had spent $43,711 at the actual end. This year, you're budgeting for 61,750. Just picking out of those two lines there.
That was, I believe that's the porta potties and what else do we have on there?
It's for porta potties, it's for additional locations on the Heritage Trail and Sugarloaf Mountain. It's also for items for the Freedom Fest that used to come out of a different line, but budget had us move it to this line.
Deb, can you elaborate on why that was moved?
It's just probably a more of a specialty payment. I think we're trying to get things out of specialty payments and specialty materials and move them into the proper line.
There were also some GASB changes regarding rent and leases, so there's throughout a lot of the budgets, there's more in rent expense than there has been in the past.
I don't see where the 25,000 would be a hard push or a hard sell. And I do appreciate all the work that you do within your budget. I truly do. Like I said, I come from a park background. I've done everything that there is to do within a park system, and cleaning the bathrooms to driving the garbage truck to emptying the garbage truck. So I get it, and I do, and I know how expensive some things can be, but I think that's a small lift. I'll be supporting.
Any other further discussion on the amendment to the motion for a line to be added and it including 25,000? No.
The austerity line.
All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Benton,
No.
Keller,
Yes.
Paduk,
Yes.
Hotel,
Yes.
Skevich,
No.
Dewey,
No.
Canada,
No.
Janie,
No. The motion fails. All right, back to the budget itself. Any further questions or comments? Majority Leader Fagiano.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner, just briefly, I know that in the last 6 to 7, 8 months, we've answered your call for more positions in Parks Department. Can you tell us very briefly, how has it gone hiring new people, and give us an impression of how they feel working for the county?
Thank you. We have hired quite a few new people. I think it was 7 skilled laborers and 2 park maintenance leaders. We had a tremendous amount of applications, and we got some really good staff that came on board. Our supervisors, our parks maintenance supervisor has been thrilled with the staffing that we have been able to get on board. They bring a lot of energy, and they're happy to be working there. And it's really allowed us to start tackling some of the maintenance projects that we have going that really needed to be tackled. If you drive by Hillhold Museum, I really hope that you could see it from the street. It's looking quite a bit different than it did before. We have new roofs, paint on pretty much all the buildings. It really looks a lot better. Up at D&H Canal, I feel like it's the same thing. We've been clearing out by the Neversink River. You can actually see the river now. I think it's a better draw up there. We've been cleaning up around the buildings up there, where that park previously was only staffed with a seasonal individual. Now we have 2 full-time people there. So we're working on opening up more hiking opportunities at that park. And same thing throughout them. If you drive through Winding Hills, I think that you'll see the grounds maintenance is in better condition. They've been taking down dead trees that were hazards, more, at a lot rapider pace. So we really thank the legislature for those positions. And I think it's been making a very big difference, even though actually most of those positions didn't come on until late summer. Yeah, so just in the last couple of months, it's really helped a lot.
Keep up the good work. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Nardi Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in your response to my questions, the museum coordinator positions have been filled.
They have not at this point.
Are you interviewing anybody for that?
We have not. In all honesty, the goal was to stabilize museums and then start building the program back up. Right now, we're almost at the spot where I'd say that are really hitting our stride, stabilizing the exterior of the museums. And we need to work towards the program development before we bring we get fully staffed up on it.
So are you foreseeing being hired in 25?
I would like to.
You want to fund it and leave it there, hopefully, whether it could be less money if it's 6 months, whatever.
Right.
And then the same one on your park conservative construction maintenance. You have down here 25 new positions, a park maintenance leader added for Sugarloaf Park Development and Maintenance, skilled labor added for Sugarloaf Park Development and Maintenance, assistant horticulture added for whatever you have here. Are they all approved by the county executive?
Well, they're in the proposed budget right now, so.
He let them go through.
Yes.
Let a couple of.
The three,
That's right, it's just the
that
three.
he mentioned, yes.
The three that I mentioned.
Yeah.
They're the other ones? Okay. And then the catering thing, I'm just a little, can you tell me a little bit about that? Because there's no funding the last 2 years, but there's an appropriation for it on page 286, 573, 240, food prepared and catered. It says it's budget specialty payments. The 2025 budget for specialty payments line to food prepared line for events program catering service. Is that, when we have people at an event, they don't charge us to come. You don't pay them to come there, do you? Don't they make their money by coming to the event?
So I'll give an example. Freedom Fest, the vendors that are down below that are, the public is going to, they pay to come to have those spots and be able to, serve the food to those people. But when we have an event like also at Freedom Fest, when we sponsor the Veterans Dinner, that comes out of our budget.
Comes out of this line?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Legislator Benton.
Deb, is that another one of those, we're taking out specialty payments and trying to prevent, try to show better,
It is, yeah. Yes,
whatever.
because record keeping is, more.
Okay, no, that's what I thought, we're better describing what they're actually being used for
Yes.
rather than specialty.
Specialty payments.
That's good. Thank you.
Legislator Tautel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 286. Park maintenance leader, 565010. You're adding 2 positions to that?
We added 2 that were approved partway through this year. And then we're proposing to add an additional one, which is one of the positions the legislator was speaking about. And that was anticipated to be for Sugarloaf Mountain.
And then just down a little further from that. And another reason I'm asking is because it's not clear under your answer for number 2. Proposed position 569970 in the amount of $132,252. What's that position, please?
That was the position that was approved this summer, which is the director of community. Yes. Sorry. And
Assistant horticulturist for 2025.
which is also one of the 3 that was there.
Deb, why isn't that in its, instead of being a proposed position, indicating to us that it's something that's going to be new for 2025, yet it was already approved?
Because I believe they have to create the position currently. And it might have been done, but in June, it wasn't.
Yeah.
In June.
Okay,
It was prior to.
okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nardi Duke.
Sorry, no, I had 2 more.
That's what we're here for.
286, same page, 571820, consulting services, non-medical. I'm a little confused on what is the 18 Mine is 18,757 for the two.
I'm thinking that's probably an accrual or a reversal or
Correct.
something like that.
Okay, so, all right. So you increased it to 61. What additional consulting services do you see for 2025? You increased it by 26%, so there must be something that you're working on.
We have an increase in the USDA contract for the geese wildlife removal from the parks and also a new forestry consultant. And we're not sure what.
And you haven't had those in the past?
We have, but it's an increase in the contractual
Oh,
amounts.
increase in there.
Mhm.
Okay, and then just the last one, the food prepared and catered for 10 grand this year. It hasn't been in your budget at all. It doesn't that for, isn't that for the events or isn't that for something? I mean.
That's what we explained earlier, that
Oh,
we
that
moved
came
it
out
from
of that one?
specialty payments into
Okay,
food
okay,
and
gotcha.
catering.
All right, thank you. That's all I have now, for sure.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would call the question on the motion for the 2025 budget for parks and special recreation facilities. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
We have to do capital.
Oh, yes.
Specialty payment.
Thank you. All right, could I get a motion and a second for capital? Legislator Bench,
Second.
Legislator Tui. Okay, page 4 is probably the best one to look at. Well, page 5, I'm sorry. Parks is on page 5. The table starts on 4. So here's the list of projects. Is there anything you wanted to point out that's pretty self-explanatory unless there was something you wanted to add?
Unless- I don't have anything specific unless there's questions on it.
Yep, okay. Legislator Tui.
Yeah, I noticed last week that Legislator O'Donnell brought up Gonzaga Park and possible need for to put a permanent bathroom there, handicap accessible. And I know Deanna had said that it was to be looked at next year. So that wouldn't be for a thing capital, now that would be for later on, or would you be doing that somehow with, on your own?
It would, basically, we're gonna come in next month really to discuss this with the capital
Okay.
projects, but we have some capital money in 2024 that was anticipated to be used for the bathroom at Sally Streams playground area.
And where?
Sally Streams Playground.
Yeah, Sally's.
We've been having difficulties with, it was anticipated that it was gonna be a precast structure that was set in place, and we've had some struggles with procurement on that, and we will go into further detail, but we're thinking we're gonna pivot and probably design, I'm envisioning probably 2 different bathroom designs that you could use one or the other at our different facilities as they need restrooms installed or upgraded. But there's not a specific capital in 2025 yet for that.
Okay, thank you, so you're looking at it. Great.
Thank you, Chairman.
I say, I had questions about a precast, something like that. What's the problems that we're having?
It's just the way that, basically it was available on, one type of a purchasing option, but, our procurement doesn't allow us to purchase off of that. We bid it out, it came back at 3 times the price of what we could purchase it off of, Sourcewell or one of those other contracts. It seemed an irresponsible price for those restrooms. And we made some changes to it, tried to bid it out again as the precast drop-in-place unit, and we had no responses whatsoever on that one. So I think we're leaning more towards getting a couple sets of plans designed that we can either bid out or build in-house.
I'd just like to comment. So you said it was listed on Sourcewell, and yet our procurement policy doesn't allow us to use Sourcewell?
It's not Sourcewell in general, it's just that way that one I think was done on there. Is it,
So are we restricted from any of those other bidding platforms than the state? our procurement policy?
Could you repeat that?
Okay, so the county's procurement policy, does it allow other platforms than the state, pre-bid or bid, lists that they create that we can piggyback off of?
The general idea that I've gotten from the guidance that we've received is that some of these things where they're awarded to multiple vendors. That's the scenario, correct? Yeah, so it's when it's awarded to multiple vendors, we can't use those ones. But when it's awarded to a vendor in a zone or a single vendor, then it's legal for us to use them.
Okay.
So it's not a clear answer across the board, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. Legislator Tuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 5, item number 98, Camp LaGuardia, 5 million. Is this for the asbestos?
So
Or is this for more than the asbestos?
currently, we are working with Open Space Institute on a master plan, a proposed master plan for Camp LaGuardia that we're going to bring and present. That would be to utilize the grounds for county park system. This would be, if that was approved, this monies would be to construct the first phase of the improvements there, which would be really confined to the area when you first go through the gates. And if you look right or left, there's kind of the fields, it starts to go up the hill, and then all the way to the left, it gets down to the Heritage Trail.
Right.
It would be a large playground up on the hill. It would be converting the kind of middle lower area into ball fields, restrooms, parking areas, dog park.
So this is more than just asbestos. This is about creating a space, a usable space for
Yes.
the residents of the county. Okay. And then be interesting to know, because there's been on and off talk about potential sale of all part of the Camp LaGuardia parcel. We're not for today, but if you're where we stand with that, and then also a follow-up on that of how much money we have expended, including Deb, that would have to come back to you on the purchase of the property. How much we've put into that piece of land.
That's not a question you're looking to get answered
No,
today,
I said
correct?
for a
Yeah,
future
okay,
date.
all right.
No, I said for a future date. Thank you.
Yeah, Legislator Benton.
Okay, so since you mentioned it, my favorite plan, when is that expected to hit press and be presented to us? Because the part of it is supposed to be a chapter or so on what is still, so we could have the county park as well as economic development.
You're right.
So I guess that your question is,
When is the plan going to be
when-
presented to
when is
us
it gonna
or
be presented to
given
us?
to you to present to us?
It's, I would say probably 80% along right now.
Mhm.
So
Good.
I'm thinking a couple months.
Okay, good, because I was going to ask that of,
Okay.
what's up?
You're
So,
good.
A little bit of a moving target, so.
Yeah, of course, but a couple months?
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Legislator Menuda.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just curious as to what buildings we're raising.
I think DPW can talk about that a little bit more, but I believe it's all of the ones up top. Pretty much all the buildings on the site, with the exception of there's a maintenance garage in the back.
I think you moved to
I'm not
a
talking-
different, you moved to a
Sorry.
different line.
Got it.
Forgive me. Let me be clear in that. So.
106.
Item 106 parks,
Yes.
raising of county buildings. So that's not raising them, that's raising them, cutting them down. What county buildings are we taking down?
As needed.
Yeah, this isn't as needed. It's actually something else we're coming in next month for, where we have a capital on 2024. There's a handful of buildings throughout the parks. One of them would be, if you come in off 416 at Thomas Pole, and you start heading up to where you could split to go down the hill for tennis courts, or left to go to the lodge. Off into the right, there's a White House in there that is really ran into disrepair. What we're gonna come in for next month is evaluation of all these deteriorating structures that are on our property at different places. There's a couple that are way out in the woods at DNH that I honestly didn't even know they were there until just recently. So it's first step is gonna be looking at all of them, looking at what, if any hazardous materials are inside of them that would need to be remediated, and doing a cost evaluation of whether it makes sense to do the, repairs and improvements, or whether we should get rid of them. And then this capital would be a starting point for, possible demolition or remediation work.
So this is simply to do the evaluation of the buildings, it's not for the actual demolition budget.
It really depends. The one that we're coming in for, next month will be more focused on the evaluation. This, I would think, would be, to take down, one or two of the first buildings.
Thank you for the clarification.
Other questions or comments?
For next month, can you give us a little update on the Arboretum too?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, no further questions or comments. I'll call the question on the capital projects for parks. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously.
They still have to come back for that 500,000, once they show us the plan and we agree to it,
Oh, yeah.
whatever the amount of money it is. We're just be giving them a lump sum that this is possible.
Budget. Yep. Yes.
Just a guideline.
Okay, thank you.
Golf?
They did that together.
I know, we did everything together.
Oh, you did.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, we have Department of Public Works, and the way I'd like to structure it, or I intend to structure it, is that we will go over administration, buildings, motor pool, county road fund, and road and machinery fund together. So I would ask for a motion to review those budgets. So
Second.
Legislator Menuda, Legislator Benton. Thank you. We'll go through them one at a time, and when we get done with the first group, we'll go to capital for the first group, and then we'll treat airport and environmental facilities and services separately.
What page are we starting on?
We are starting on
301 admin.
301, yes. Okay.
Our page numbers are not,
So if,
may not line up exactly, we're starting on our admin budget, I believe.
yes,
There's a budget book at the end of the table.
Okay, so our, starting with the admin budget, I think in general, you're gonna see across the board, obviously some increases in mailing because of the CSEA union agreement, which I think is a very good thing, so I want to thank everybody who helped move that along, because it really helps our retention and our attraction for employees, which is very much needed, especially in DPW. Austerity as well, which is listed in here. I know Mr. Verdeek has some questions that we forwarded over today.
And just,
So we can have to answer any clarification on there. Generally, I think in one with the austerity is that we're going to be balancing, it's not just one, the specific positions removing, it's balancing a number of positions throughout the year that'll save money towards that budget. And maybe multiple positions that just don't get filled early in the year. And cumulatively, they add up to those amounts. So, obviously, the budget is up a little bit. Again, the CSA improved the agreements, other raises, and dealing with inflation across the board as well. So,
so we're focused now on page 303 to 307. Any questions or comments? Already do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going over that. You said you had approximately 20 positions, not only the ones open for more than 1 year.
correct, because
How many are open for more than 1 year?
those are listed, I think, separately on there, because the way that question was asked on the sheet was not specific to the ones that were open, and some other questions were specific to the ones that were open more than a year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I believe we do have a separate list for,
This is one of the lines through with the county executive. You submitted, well, you did it yourself. he added more to the vacation austerity personnel budget. So he recognizes that some of these positions you're not gonna be filling too. And then, I mean, I don't know how you decide that, or it just doesn't happen, but that's a $750,000 savings in taxation. right there. That's, I mean, that's why I thought about vacant positions. So what vacant position did you ask for that he said, you know, he didn't, he's the one who wants to take away, but not let you fill them.
So just to clarify, it's more of a general statement that it's not specific to any one position.
Right.
So in general, you know, everybody's looking back at the money that has not been spent year to year, seeing how many vacancies we have year to year. But all these positions are critical to us, and it's not the same positions that happen to vacate one year to the next. We don't know which ones are going to vacate because there's retirements, there's other reasons, especially before we had this new agreement with the 40 hours. So we'll add, like, no specific positions are being asked to be held off on. The austerity is going to be in there. We may have certain handful of positions that don't get filled for 6 months through the year. We may have a couple that we fill right away. We may have some that maybe go 10, 11 months before we get them filled throughout the year. We always have a number of them, so we're always balancing that. And actually, it's more amount of staff we have, less people we have to work on those things as well to get those positions filled. But we're generally comfortable with what's there for the austerity. I don't look at that as something that the taxpayers are wasting money on by any means. It's a matter of being able to manage our staff, positions we have. And then anything that does not get spent obviously rolls into the following year, potentially as use of surplus.
Have you filled like 11 positions already this year?
Oh, I think we filled more than one position, yeah, but we've also lost positions as well, so it's always a constant up and down. We've had a lot of retirements already this year. Some of them did the incentive payments program that we came through.
Because it says you have 31, but I'm sure during the year you've filled some, and that's why I asked that question. So you wrote down 20, that's why I asked.
Yeah, and to be clear, because it's such a moving target, we put the numbers in that were at the time we put the budget numbers in. So they're gonna vary from, we've had a couple people retire, and we're already trying to hire some more people as well.
Thank you, that's all I have right now.
Okay. Any other legislator to tell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you just give me a little clarification on your answer to question number 1 for page 303, number 560210? The 45,000 is for retirement incentives. Is that for multiple people or is that for a?
So we had, the program paid out. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the program, but it paid out, if somebody was leaving in the first year, they got paid out 30,000. Second year, they would get 15. And it was the third year, it would be 10, 10, 10. So those numbers get spread out. So you kind of see this as an increments of $15,000. So it's multiple, I think it's likely multiple employees. It definitely is more than one employee because it's more than 30,000. But it's depending on when they're leaving is when those stipends are going to be paid out. So that's something that the budget department gives to us and the HR gave to us based on the filled in by the employees.
Yeah, it's a six, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the incentive.
No, I'd
program,
asked you
right?
about special stipends last week. Yeah. The contractual, there was a different
Yeah,
thing.
and I'll just say it was pretty well spread out for us with DPW. It's something we looked at. And, you know, we had a few retired this year, a few next year, and a few after that. So it's certainly very manageable on our end.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments? We can move on then. So let's move on to starting the buildings budget, starting on 309. Any questions or comments with that?
So those two of those positions you mentioned just now are from year 2. You have at the time of budgeting, 2 positions, director of building maintenance and maintenance mechanic assistant supervisor.
Correct. 2 of those are grouped into the 20 that we referenced earlier.
That hasn't been taken for longer than a year, yes.
That hasn't been.
Yeah, he's got,
This year, you know how many years they've been doing? I mean, that's the job that, we're not trying to take a job away, I'm saying, we fund them, we don't fill them for 5 years and we tax everybody on them, right? So if they've been for more than a year, you really need them or?
They haven't been more for 5 years. So the one was our maintenance supervisor at the jail who retired. So his position was open for a while before we could fill it, and we filled it. But then that person has just moved up to director. So that one position was filled as of, I think, September. But when we gave you that answer, that was a snapshot at the end of May, those two positions.
Which is when the budget numbers were together.
And sometimes it takes also, we had to, with our maintenance mechanic assistant supervisors, we had to wait quite a bit because there's a civil service test that we were waiting to be given. So once that was given, then we were able to fill those positions.
A lot of times it's 6 months or more. We have to wait for those.
Yeah, a lot of
Results.
times. There was a test that was just given in March and we just got the results now for a lot of the highway performance tests that were out. So that's, that takes a while sometimes.
And then just one more on your austerity adjustable contraction. This year you have a minus 150. I'm doing okay with that. You don't know until the end of the year. but-
Yeah, it's always tough to tell. I mean, but we're always very conscientious of it. We're getting close to those numbers. We're gonna be on the phone with budget to see where we're at with the austerity.
Right, because you reduced it already by 100 grand yourself. You submitted less than you had last year. So, I'm happy that you guys are doing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if there's more available to reduce taxation, I would think that maybe we could keep it at 150. We've had it that way for a while, so it isn't like, I don't know. I know you're gonna say that it's cost of increase. I get it, but we can do a little better. We can. So I would make the motion, but it's nothing to look for, so I'll just leave it. I trust you guys, so.
Legislator Tuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 313, 576823, security services. There was nothing in the budget in 2023. Year-to-date in 2024 was $120,004. And this year it's jumping up to $605,530.
Yeah, so that was traditionally, that was in maintenance contracts, and that's a new line this year, I think, the security services. So that came out of the maintenance, that's separate now. They used to be rolled up into the maintenance contract.
Okay, so is this something we're still contracting for? Are we hiring security guards or?
Yes, that's contracted, the gentlemen and ladies downstairs, security guards, that's contracted.
Okay, so
Yes.
yeah, that is contracted. So
Better
why do we
identification.
take it out of contract if it's a contract? That's kind of,
So basically, if you want to check what your security is, this is the better line to do it in.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just in that regard, we don't have a county contract for security, I mean, all our buildings, don't we?
Yep.
We just divided them up through each budget department, that's how we look at it.
Yep.
So if we totaled them all up for the year, we'd know that it was $5 million for security, and it's one company we use, right?
So that's.
And we've had that
that's-
company for.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Legislator Benton.
Page 315 is a building's position identified as proposed that's being cut. What's the title? Staff in 23 and 24, but now being cut.
Yeah, I don't think it was good. I think the position was created in 24. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but it says executive recommended is 0 positions.
Right, because it was proposed in the 2024 budget. It's an actual position in the 25 budget. Like it has a title now.
So,
It's not proposed.
so it's still gonna be there. It's
Proposed,
just,
sorry.
right.
And what is that new title?
It's director.
I believe it's the director of building maintenance and jail maintenance.
Or was that only HVAC?
Or is that, I think that was
Oh,
the.
this
This is HVAC or maybe.
Yes.
HVAC tax.
It's HVAC.
HVAC.
Okay.
This year.
All right, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Legislator Feller.
Yeah, the state aid was reduced by 600,000 from 23 to 24, what you were budgeted for, and that's what year to date. We haven't gotten anything.
I think that was,
Keeping it the same in 2025, that one-time payment coming in at the end of the year or something.
yes.
Each was
Wait.
that on? I apologize.
309.
Never mind.
First question is, why did we cut 40-50% of what we got the year before?
I think that because of the way the checks,
Yes, so that was an approval, I believe.
that probably was the timing of the checks came in. So that's our payment for the court system that we get every year. So I think probably came in the same year. So,
Yeah, I think multiple years were paid.
Yes.
In 20.
The prior year, there was two
Correct.
payments.
yes. So usually there's only one payment. That'll be $815 this year. That's what we're.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Let's move on then to page 317, motor pool. Appropriation 160 on motor pool. Questions or comments? Legislator Tortel.
I have a general question on the motor pool. I've noticed, with a couple other departments that their fleets are coming from like a rental. So that's decreasing our fleet, correct? Do you know?
Yeah, it's the county leasing program. Right now, we have an outside vendor that in our, a bid went out, our RFP went out for their services a number of years ago. And there's a number of vehicles are leased now. Which is decreasing, excuse me, the number of vehicles the county owns. And over time, we talked about not, we've sort of by attrition, not replaced 22 individuals in our shop because we're not maintaining those vehicles that are leased out. We only maintain the ones that we own. But yes, that was the program that's been in place now for probably seven years, I think. It started.
That will decrease the fleet budget yet. I mean, I'm seeing an increase. I'm assuming that is based on the CSEA contract.
Yeah.
When we're looking at the numbers.
Yes, you're gonna see, exactly. You're gonna see that with the 40 hours now in CSEA. And, we've had to balance with how many parts we keep in inventory and things like that. So those have changed in our budget over the last several years. I think, we lease more vehicles than we own. Striking that balance, so we're not spending more money on inventory parts for vehicles that we want.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions or comments? Legislator Feller.
On 2023, you had zero, page 317. You had zero non-appropriated and spent for appropriated surplus. You're looking for 500,000, your budget for 500,000.
I can explain that. So basically, there's never anything in appropriated surplus. We just budget it to offset some of the expenses. And that's based on the surplus that's in 2023.
So if I looked at this next year, for 2024, actual would be zero also,
Correct.
And that 500,000 that's appropriated would be spent in other line items.
Yeah, so it's basically out of their surplus that they're taking some of it.
So they haven't done that for the first 6 months, though.
No, they won't have anything in an actual.
Legislator Tui.
Yeah, on page 319, number 576824, license payment. That's 9,160. Is that another case of that coming in from somewhere else?
It's like usually a computer software. All of the licenses.
Fuel software.
Okay. Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'm sorry, yes, go ahead, Legislator.
So I noticed that's capitalized. Is that a general thing that you did when you move something from specialty payments? It's maybe capitalized to identify?
Oh, the font being calculated.
Oh, yeah, that was the name of the account.
No?
Seems pretty consistently.
No, it's just how it was entered into the system however many years ago.
Okay,
That would be great if we could highlight it.
that'd be a good way to identify
It
new
would.
things.
So you
I thought that was the intent.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm talking about page.
Okay, then, Seeing that there are no more questions or comments, let's move on to County Road. We show on page 321. Any questions or comments here? Majority Leader Fagione.
Thank you, Chairman. I know Joe Menuda has been the king of monitoring potholes in this part of the world. Commissioner, can you just give us a brief overview of the conditions of the roads in Orange County at the county level?
Sure. I like to think that they're probably the best in the county of all the roads. We certainly do have a lot of municipalities that do a fine job as well. We have a great program. We rate our roads every year. It's been a great program even before I got here, so I can't really take the credit for that. We've just maintained it. We get the financial support we need from the legislature and from the county executive who understands the importance of infrastructure. We get about 20 to 25 miles of road resurfaced every year, and by keeping up with the resurfacing in the maintenance program, we end up avoiding large capital investments down the road by having to do complete reconstruction of roads, or even having to fully reclaim the road, things like that. So it's been a great program. We appreciate the support in that program, and I think we have a great engineering team behind that maintains it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And as well as our road crew.
Has the state been asking you for tips?
I'm sure they have some budget constraints over there.
Legislative bench.
As a general engineering question, when you redo a road, you have basically two choices, the asphalt or tar and chip. I'm sure they both have their pros and cons. Obviously, tar and chip, I believe, is much less expensive, but preference, what do we do either or?
We don't charge.
Yeah, we generally don't tar and chip. You get a lot of public complaints with that. And there's more options than just those. We do also do some micro sealing, and we did, we did some hot for reclamation this year, which turned out very well. We kind of reshaped it and we put some kind of small micro surface or something like that over top. But otherwise, we'll do like 1.5-inch overlays. But our engineering staff, they do a very good job of evaluating specifically the conditions of each road that we're going to work on. See what application is going to be best for that particular road, depending on how long it's been there, what the roadway condition is.
So how much longer does asphalt last than tar and chip?
I don't know, do you have a thought on that?
It's hard to say. Tar and chip's usually better on lower volume and lower speed roads. When you have higher speeds, it's hard to have a better ride quality on a tar and chip because of the noise. And, you know, sometimes when you first pave it, it's real loose.
Right. Oh, it is, it's gravel once when you start.
Not good for motorcyclists.
True.
All right, thank you.
Even after it's cured. Major road rash. I do have a question.
Legislator Tortel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page, excuse me, page 322. About an inch up from the bottom, 571950, labor expense payroll distribution. No, we don't have the, I look, we don't really have the positions laid out in here. I'm just curious why it's lumped together. This is probably a debt question, actually.
It's a separate cost center. We went over admin already, so those those positions, their personal services and benefits are in that admin. And then depending on the number of hours they work, it gets charged back, so that funds the revenue for that cost center.
So it's like a
an
chargeback
expense- It's
line.
a chargeback, yes.
Okay. Anyway, we can put chargeback at the end of that for next time.
The chargeback's done live with payroll. Every pay period it's charged.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Did you talk with that?
Page 322.
Yeah.
571950.
Okay, I'm on that.
It had
same-
a, it had $1.5 million increase this year.
I'm on that same page, the consulting services, non-medical, you average like 33,000, you have 81,760 for this year, and you're at 13 right now, you're asking for more. Can you tell me what those consulting services are gonna be used for? You increased it by somewhat, a small amount, but you don't use half of it, at least it seems like.
We're,
322, consulting services, non-medical, 7571820.
Sure, that's where we budget the engineering fees that we have for outside engineers to do consulting work. We also budgeted for some inspection services at some of the dams that we hadn't anticipated in prior years, increasing bid costs as well.
So, I mean, you're at 13,204 as of June, so it doesn't look like you're doing too much additional work. I mean, you're saying you have a lot more happening.
There could be more bills coming throughout the year as the projects kind of wind down, and then bills are reviewed by engineering and passed along, so that's why you're not seeing it as an expense yet,
Okay.
right? Because you're questioning what's been expensed through June.
Yeah, well, do you know what, yeah, that's what this goes, only through June, I understand that. I have a couple more questions, I'm just gonna go through the contractual stuff again. Lease agreements, 575120 on page 323. About $9,000 in 23, they appropriated 35, almost 36,000 for 224. You're at about $7,500 and 35.
What line number?
575120 lease agreement.
More than halfway down.
So that is part of the enterprise transitioning from the motor pool to the enterprise agreement, because in 2024, we also budgeted for those vehicles.
Okay, I'm just looking at you, it looks like there's a lot of extra budget monies there.
We had anticipated more vehicles, but due to inventory, we didn't get as many vehicles as we had anticipated.
So you're anticipating more or the same amount?
So
I mean, that's
we
the
didn't
numbers,
have any direction, so I went with what I had done in years past, so not knowing what.
And that's funny, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. So we go down to 576770 special travel in county. The average is maybe $4,400. Where special, you haven't spent any yet. What is the special travel?
that's our conferences, right? Yeah, that's a training and conferences for our staff. When they go away, so like the bridge conference, which just happened, right?
Yeah, last week.
Ryan was just away with a number of the bridge conference. I typically go to a couple, 2 or 3 a year, a couple with the New York State County Highway Superintendent Association. It has 2 conferences a year that I'll attend, stay up with state legislation and things like that. Going on with different counties as well, for the DPWs. So that's generally what that line is. It's very, very much needed, and some of our our licensed engineers have required continued education needs in order to maintain their licenses, and several of them, their licenses are required as part of the job.
Okay, I'll wait for Angie, I'll go to 325 then, road oils. Road oil, it looks like you haven't spent any money on that. So are you doing roads a different way? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of money in there for not spending any for this year. Up to June anyway.
What number?
You're jumping ahead.
322.
We're not there yet.
You're on County Road.
Oh, that's,
No.
322.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Okay.
573320.
Yeah.
On the page.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're
oh, so this is all, okay. So this is some of our, this is part of our paving program, sorry. Some of the contracts got signed a little bit later in the year than normal, which is only why they just haven't hit the books yet, but we just completed our paving, I believe, about a week ago, or our roadway resurfacing program about a week ago. So a lot of this all of a sudden is going to jump right up here with as the bills come through and we start paying it. So there was some specific, it applied to some specific roadway treatment services that we contracted out.
That you contracted. So
Yeah.
You're paying for the oil?
I think it's, I don't know if it's specifically just the oil. I think it's.
I mean, I would think that'd be on your contractual stuff, wouldn't it? Not if you're paying out contracts. You had consulting services, non-medical, I don't know if that's the contracted out. That's a lot of money in a budget that you're not using. And we do have an austerity of,
Well, we are going to use it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Some specific treatments, it's not necessarily all the paving.
Sorry?
Like crack sealing, some other pavement treatments that use like oil type products,
Like tack coat?
like tack coat, things like that.
Okay, well, I mean, like, again, as I go through all your consulting stuff, I just compare them from years prior. That's why I asked a few years ago for a 5-year cumulative, thing, which our investigators showed us. And it shows where it's pretty consistent, where the years prior, you use about the same amount. I get it how there's increases in a lot of products and stuff, but last year you had minus 250 in this year's budget, because for reducing costs, which for some things you didn't have to pay for. So this year you submitted 150, so I would make a motion that we bring it back to at least 200 for 2025 budget, and that could, austerity adjustable contractual 579990, and reduce county taxation.
Just one next question. Should we move this from a different line item?
What I was gonna say is we could have budgeted for crack sealing that would come out the operating and not be chipsable. So if we had an opportunity to chips on crack sealing, we would have paid it out different. We could have paid it out capital project.
Right, and that's, we're not doing that. That's what we, and I think Melinda's point, thank you, Melinda, is that some of these in the past may have been hit under a different budget, and we're moving, the way we moved some of the chip spending around now. To simplify from an administrative standpoint and try to lump these bigger chunks of CHIPS money. We're going to start spending that more so with the CHIPS money. So that's why you're seeing it in the line item here now. I've already explained, but it basically has a lot to do with how we're trying to make it a lot easier on administrative staff to claim the CHIPS money and claim it in a more timely fashion as well.
I made that motion. Making a motion. Could you repeat that?
To increase the, let me give you the number.
Page 26.
579990 austerity adjustment contractual from 150, minus 150 to minus 200. It was 250 last year.
And is there a second?
Second.
Total. Any further discussion on the amendment? Legislative.
Just, Majority Leader, what's the justification for that? What will that do?
What that'll do is say, let their department decrease their spending by $50,000 more. Not decrease it necessarily, but maybe not spend as much. I'm talking about overestimated expenses. If you looked at your budget book all through, you could, I'm saying, because you would see that a lot of it, that's why I should ask every year, and I'm gonna start doing that, is how much money was returned from each department. Then you'll get a really good idea of how much contractual. It may not be split out that way, but you'll know if they were budgeted 200,000, they returned 175,000, and that line should be $25,000 so that they can work it through their budget themselves. I'm just trying to do it for us. That's it. We represent the taxpayer. They do the department.
Drop it 150.
It was 250. The department dropped it to 150.
I know.
And I want to increase it to 200 or minus 200.
Now, if it stays, they still have austerity. I mean, they're already saving 150,000.
So they reduced it to 150, so it was 250 last year, and then we reduced it to 150. And that just leaves some flexibility in the contractual.
Yeah, it's all an estimate.
It's just
taxpayers' money that we're spending.
Just for clarification, it would come from county taxation or
Correct.
reduced county.
Reduced county taxation. Right.
Any further discussion on the amendment to the motion? Everybody clear on what we're doing? We propose to do? All right, could I have a roll call, please?
Benton,
No.
Miller,
No.
Duke,
Yes.
Hotel,
Yes.
Skevich,
No.
Dewey,
No.
Nuda,
No.
Seaman.
No. Anything more on County Road?
Yeah.
Legislator Feller.
So can you just tell me the amount of county roads and miles you have?
302 miles.
302. You do 25 miles a year. So you want We did 25 this year.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus 20.
So you're on a 12-year, pretty much a 12-year cycle.
Approximately.
And the average cost per mile. Yeah,
Obviously, up.
not this year's.
Ryan's trying to,
Come this year. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact.
trying to do a number right now, just to give you a general ballpark. And it varies based on what application we use, obviously. So it's sort of a culmination of all the different uses.
And that includes, the average cost per mile is going to include contractual and in-house. For
Yeah,
the 25 miles that you do.
Yeah, we do almost all the 25, almost all of it is contractual.
So,
Yeah, we do some of the preparation, some of what's called true and leveling or shinning. We do some of that in-house. But the majority of the roads, when you see the final paved surface, and for the most part, it's a contracted service.
and that doesn't include striping, does it?
The striping will come from a different vendor, but we generally include the cost.
Yeah, but per mile.
Yeah, Ryan's,
Well,
I don't want to put him on the spot too much.
engineers love challenges. Well, while Ryan's working on that, legislator Tortel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 323, first line, 573340 pipeline. It's small, but what is the pipeline?
Top of page 323, right? I don't know, I think that's just
Pipe itself. maybe?
pipe itself, purchasing pipe, yeah.
Driveway culverts.
Yeah.
Golf culverts, yes.
That I would think under material, but when you say pipeline, I'm thinking something completely.
Yeah, the terminology is a little strange.
Where'd that come
sometimes.
from?
No, I know where you're going with that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a specific project, it's not a specific, the pipeline project or something like that, it's just purchase a pipe. Yeah,
Case of a
Thank you.
washout or something like that, we need pipeline stuff.
Yeah.
Ryan looks like he's ready with a number.
Between $140,000 and $150,000 per mile.
Thank you, sir.
That's full section?
Relay, micro, different, just resurface.
So it's not including like a grading or anything that we'd have to do.
Or Bill.
Correct, we're not milling out any asphalt, it's there, we may shim it, overlay.
Just the way.
Yeah.
Okay, anything more before we move on to our next category, which is road and machinery fund? That's on
329.
329 through 335. Questions or comments? Legislator Tui. Right on 329, you have county taxation appropriated surplus and other revenues. They seem pretty substantial. Where are they coming from?
When did this one? Depends on some of the strips, so fuel.
Sorry, what's the chart account number again?
Road machinery.
It's page 329 up on the top.
Other revenues, under your revenue stream.
Revenues
Page.
on 331, it's 428,011. It's gotta be program.
The revenues, that's also another charge.
Back.
That's also another charge back for the equipment that we lease out to Williams for their operations, so no different than the labor pool. So machinery is its own equipment cost center, and then roads utilizes the equipment, comes with an hourly rate for the equipment, and then that's charged back to this.
It's a charge, internal charge.
Yes.
So it's an internal charge.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Corresponding expense from the road budget.
Yeah, within the DPW.
Minority Leader Padu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 331-560-990. automotive parts are 10. There's nothing in 23, 24, tell me what that is. I don't even know what 10 means.
They didn't have room for the yellow letters.
They didn't have, oh, 10. All right, so just tell me what that is. You haven't done that in the past.
Oh, yeah, so was it, okay, so we're just discussing this morning. I think it was on the sheet that we responded to, that there was a position that, excuse me, an employee was promoted and the vacant position they left behind was taken out of the budget last year instead of being put into austerity. So we were trying to refill that position. So it was on the 23, then off the books is 24, and they're trying to get it back on the books 25, basically. So we can refill the position.
But actually, it wasn't on the book for 23 or 24.
Was it before that then, maybe? Was it vacant?
There's a one that was on 23, there's a one, that one.
It was budgeted, but not filled in 23.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, because it's listed,
Oh,
There was no actual expense in 23,
Uh,
it was budgeted.
but it was budgeted in 23, correct? So it was in the budget in 23, then out of the budget. Trying to get back in the budget. So, last year, there was a big push for the positions were vacant for a year or so, and there was a lot of pressure, a lot of the stuff that wasn't budgeted last year. I guess in this year's budget, at this time last year.
Okay, thank you.
Legislator Menuda.
We may have no control over this, but why is there a 572% increase in liability insurance, line 578300?
Yeah, I think you're right. We have no control of that.
That it comes from risk, and, first of all liability is going up significantly.
That's a huge jump.
It is. I believe there might have been some claims against that, because there were 3 of them that had a claim against, that's why I'm thinking it might have been that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
Yeah, like I said, it comes from risk, and I'm sure in coordination with all departments, if there's other expected cases or something, because we do occasionally get lawsuits. You know, there's
All right.
and everything.
Thanks for the clarification.
Other questions or comments?
Just
Bernardi,
on page 332, your specialty payment, has that been moved around, or you take money out of something else for that, or? Only because you had 25 and you haven't spent any up till now. And then you only asked for 57.70. What are those specialty payments for? Are they for something that was supposed to be on a different line?
Specialty payments, we had budgeted for the fleet fuel software, so it was then changed in this budget to, I believe, licensing payments, the line right underneath it, 576,824, so you'll see an
Change.
increase.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or comments on road machinery? All right, we're to the end of the first group that we have a motion on, so I would now like to ask for a vote on the first 5 items under the budget review: administration, buildings, motor pool fund, county road fund, road and machinery fund.
Here, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
There's 2 specialty material lines, specialty payment lines.
What page?
I'm sorry, I'm reading that wrong. That's materials and this is payment. I'm sorry for interrupting.
All right, so I'll call the motion for approval of this portion of the budget. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. So we'll move on to capital projects. And turn to page 4. And it would be, we'd be dealing with lines 22 through 62. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Motion is second. Costello, legislator Menuda.
Questions or comments? Legislator Tortel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 23, buildings, grounds, motor equipment replacement, $140,000.
Yes, that's for to replace 2 vehicles. Let's see. So that's to replace a 2011 F-250, which is very rusty, doesn't have a lot of miles, but of course rust with salt winter operations. And a 2011 Expedition, it's very rusty, has 120,000 plus miles.
Any of that cost going to be offset by selling the existing vehicles?
We probably will get something out of the existing vehicles, yes.
But I believe there's a line item in the budget, correct, for revenue from that
Surplus.
Yeah, surplus.
And then number 25, DBW administration building renovation and addition, $1,900,000.
Yeah, this is a project to expand our office space. We currently have employees that are working in the basement, no natural daylight. We have Bob's office, environmental facilities, is down in not much more than an office trailer down the opposite side of the parking lot. We've actually had HR comes in, or not, or what's the committee that comes to the workplace violence? Committee for the HR and other department representatives. They do a walkthrough every year. We flag both our basement and the EFNS facility on their list. Improving office space.
They tour our garages too?
Yes, I did. Yes, they commented on it as well. And we are replacing the Newburgh garage and we're doing improvements in the whole garage.
Anything been flagged particularly in any of the garages?
I don't know whether we want to go there.
No, well, I mean, that anything is any, I don't see anything here in the capital budget for repairs to any of our garages. So that's why that's why I'm saying that.
We have, I think in our previous.
So that's part of ARPA, the design part is part of ARPA.
Okay, so that's coming out of our.
We have a capital project you'll see probably next month, at the committee meetings, maybe December.
2024.
It's in the capital plan for 2024.
Okay, great, thank you. And then,
And then like item 24 also says Goshen Drive improvements on this list, so. Then we have a number of garages, obviously, there's.
and then on number 52, I don't know if that's, are we into transportation yet, Barry, or?
Yeah, we'll do all these, yes.
Okay, so number 52, transportation, heavy equipment, fleet replacement, got 1,500,000. I see $1 million of it as state aid, which is fantastic, so.
Correct. So we've been doing this the past few years for this amount where we're trying to replace our plow truck inventory. Many of the trucks are very old, many miles. We have to repair them.
So this is specifically for plow truck. This isn't for like graders or.
Plow trucks
backhoes.
primarily, like a maintenance truck or two, like a pickup trucks the maintenance supervisors will drive. And then we also have another piece of equipment like a backhoe or loader or something like that, depending on the age of the equipment, which we're going to be replacing.
And then number 61, design for Cornell property. Can you go there a little bit?
Should we touch on it, Eric?
Then Brian, you're familiar with that one as well, right? That's the,
Yeah, Cornell Cooperative, I think that's them just designing for them to move out to Otisville, to their site out in Otisville. Because right now they lease space from us in Middletown.
it's more of a feasibility.
Yeah, it's
study,
not
not a design.
Okay, so this is for a feasibility study, not for an actual.
kind of the first step to.
Yeah. first
Okay,
step to
so this
analysis.
isn't for the design of
Yeah,
the.
we should get further clarification on that.
Yeah, we should.
Because Cornell was not quite sure. They knew it was designed.
The
They
county
didn't know
executive
what it
doesn't
was
like
for exactly. It was approved, but we should get some clarification on that. That was the main aim. Unless this is a clarification, this exactly is for that.
It's preliminary design feasibility, making sure that the site can accommodate what their needs might be. Space allocation, I believe, things like that. Right, Eric?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So basically site planning and building planning?
Planning, yes, and probably not detailed design plans and constructability for the site plans like that.
I'm just thinking $150,000 is a tremendous amount of money for that. That should be full design, but, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Legislator Muda, go ahead.
Yes, just want to double check on item 30, DPW buildings ADA improvements, whether there's enough budget there. So whenever we have improvements, ADA requirements are 20% of the budget must go to ADA. So I just don't know if there's enough money there.
This is our annual, we typically put $50,000 in there to keep up with things that come up from an ADA standpoint. We're in the process now of doing a full out ADA accessibility study that we've just started, we've gotten a contract with, and the kickoff meeting was, I think, last week.
Yes.
Once that study comes to fruition, we'll have a detailed analysis, cost estimates, those things, mostly in the public access space. And then at that point, we'll certainly going to be coming back in more money, I believe, for physical improvements.
I appreciate that, Eric. Just want, it's a federal requirement.
Yeah, and that's something that we're taking very seriously, and I know that it's a need, it's very much needed. So.
Thank you.
Minority Leader Paduk.
Thank you. Just a question, we just approved, well, we okayed $5 million for Camp Concordia Park in the parks. You have it in here as number 26 for another $5 million. They're two different projects, or?
Same property, but this is actually for the asbestos remediation.
The raising the buildings.
Yeah, taking the buildings down, because there's a lot of asbestos in the water.
We've done a lot of that already.
So this is where the
asbestos. $500,000 more.
We have done,
there?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, with the main buildings, yes.
We've saved a tremendous amount of money doing a lot of this in-house, the smaller buildings that we can manage, but these are the much larger buildings that
Right, I get it.
we don't have the in-house.
So we haven't seen the plan for that yet either, so you're gonna be knocking down, there was a building there that was feasible to be reused, right? I mean, now it seems like you're talking about knocking them all down, taking all the asbestos out with this new plan that we haven't seen yet.
No, the building that Travis referred to earlier is the maintenance building down back. That's going to stay for now. That's probably going to be a future parks maintenance building. So it's a big warehouse. So that's going to be repurposed. But this is for the main buildings up top that are loaded with asbestos that really have no use.
And did you, we did some buildings already, right? They're the ones, the smaller ones in-house.
Yes. And we're going to continue doing some of the smaller buildings in-house. And eventually, but this $5 million is going to be specifically for the large buildings up top.
And the other $5 million for this proposed park, supposedly.
That's for the park. Yeah, that's step 3 or 4 after this.
This is our third round of asbestos abatement that I'm
Correct.
calling.
Yes.
Is it third or fourth?
I would say it's the third because we did surplus to begin with, and then we did $5 million for this year, 24. Right now, we're working out there starting next week.
20.
And then 25, this will be another $5 million.
And this is in addition to what we've paid our in-house certified asbestos.
Yes.
Well, some of that went through these items as well. I believe, when we did that with refinance sources, went to some of the capital budget items. But our hope is that we don't have to spend all $5 million, but we need to have the money there in order to put things out to bid. I hope that they come in lower. Again, we did so much, we have a very talented group in-house, and they save so much money for the taxpayers by raising the buildings that have been done so far. Brian did a very good job working with the environmental monitor, the company that came in to advise us on what was in those buildings. It gave us that comfort level that we could do some of this ourselves, and some of it was done, some of it we had to have another contractor come in and just take out small amount of asbestos that was in the buildings, and then our in-house forces were able to just demolish the whole building and take it away. So we've done quite a bit out there for a lot of savings.
Okay. Then I just have one more, number 62, the restoration of the 1862 Lindsay Monument. You talked to the historian, is there any grants available maybe for that? We don't know that.
Yes, I think there are grants, and I think that she's going to be working on that as well. I know we met out there with her about a month ago when we were talking about putting this in. They have the Daughters of the American Revolution, I think is the group that's heading that restoration up. So they're doing a fundraising, they're doing their own fundraising, and they have already gotten some of the pricing. So that's how we came up with that price.
So we'd be doing the work, or we'd be contracting?
We'd be contracting out.
Even within, and how much money would they be putting? We don't know.
They have a fundraising goal. There's actually a big sign up on the monument. I haven't read it yet, but they have a goal there of what they want to raise. And there's a little bit of red at the bottom, so they've started to raise some, but so I'm not really sure.
Yes, Legislator Tui. So if there is a grant, does this get some of the money, the 250 back?
Yeah, that or we wouldn't spend all of it out of here. You know, maybe they would pay for a portion, certain restoration items, and then we would pay for the other portion, you know, to get to the goal, but we wouldn't necessarily have that
before we approve it anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know if this grant source is reimbursable or from money, so, have it there. Right, maybe you'd have to have it here to spend it to get it back.
Okay.
In that case.
We're gonna come back to the capital for airports and
Yes, yeah.
environment. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the capital, which are listed as items 22 through 62? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to airport. And could I get a motion in a second? Legislator Menuda and second, Legislator Tui, thank you.
Chairman.
Yes.
We're just doing airport, we're doing airport and.
Just airport.
Thank you.
Swap seats.
All right.
So moved.
You got it. Yeah, thanks. All
Um,
right, would you like to just give us a
Yeah, sure.
overview?
Obviously, Ed's here now, he's been doing a great job with the budget with the airport. He's been bringing in millions of dollars of FAA funding and some state funding as well. We've got a lot of action going out there with the capital projects. We're finishing up the Apron A project now. Should be a huge improvement as soon as you drive into the airport. Sewer was done last year, water is going to be coming up this coming year. Then ultimately with the big plan to get the larger jets in there and get the fuel sales and also get more of the private investment into the hangar projects as well. So things are really booming out there. Zero taxation is, we try to get as close to zero taxation as we can every year, make the airport being self-sustainable, and they're doing a great job of that. I think you see an increase in the surplus being used for this year. And obviously the 40-hour CSDA agreement will affect the airport as well. And such a small amount of staff out there that has a little bit more of an impact on the percentage. And then he's got two or three vacancies out there that he is in the process of either filling one and pursuing the other two. Boy, he's much overtime. Ed's been picking up a lot of that slack when we have a lack of staff. So it's very important position to try to fill.
Questions or comments?
Thank you. So you just basically answered my question. 3 positions currently through in the process of being filled. That are budgeted for next year. They're not filled yet. There's no money available for them this year.
No, we just, we had our administrator promote internally in the county, and we had a laborer transfer to the Parks Department for better hours.
And what one's proposed to be filled? Can be filled in
The
2025?
operations leader position, that's the one that is tagged to the austerity with the aim to fill that when the austerity is covered.
Then you have a skilled labor and executive assistant.
Those are the first two that I mentioned.
You have, they're hired? You have-
I've interviewed about a dozen people for the administrator position, and we're right now interviewing the labor position.
So you have two.
I suspect by December.
Legislator Tuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 339, airport operating leader. One position, a 31.20% increase. And then the following two positions below that number, so 561060 is airport operating leader, 563510 executive secretary administrative assistant, and 564330 laborer 2. All of these are indicated on your flow chart that there's only, it's individual, but yet I'm seeing a 31.20% increase, a 30.63 increase, and 139.73 increase in laborer 2. So, I mean, even with the adjusted hours and contract, that should only top out at maybe 12 to 14%.
The larger increase there, the 139, but that went from a part-time to a full-time position. So that's why you see the bigger jump there. The other ones, well, the CSEA stuff, it's more than a 20% increase from the 40 hours and the 4% increase that came along with the annual raise from the CSEA agreement. And it may be a step raise in there.
Departments, it was coming out to about 15%.
These are all young staff members, so they're getting the
Yeah.
step increases.
It depends on the individual, if they just got a step raise or if they're already 40 hours. I think the 40 hours on its own equates to 14%, I want to say. Then they got another 4% increase in wages for the annual increase, which brings up to 18. And then if there's step raises in there too, depending on how long they've been here, they would get an increase on top of that.
So I'm just seeing a larger number than what I had anticipated seeing in there.
None of these
Percentage-wise.
changes were.
It's the numbers that are given to us.
Were, yeah,
through the-
they were
They're,
not
I know they're all
requested by the
contract
airport.
positions, so.
This
That's
is all
And I think
contract.
even the executive secretary, she was already in that position, and I'm thinking she was getting the 80 hours, 4%, and a step increase.
And she was a 35 to
And she was
40.
35 to
Yes.
40, so she would have, and she was relatively new,
years,
2
so
to 3
she
years, so
still
she
gets-
would have still gotten a step increase. The airport leader, I'll double check on that one.
Yeah, I was just, because that's a jump, that's a $15,506
And
jump.
right now, the airport leader is vacant, so I'm not sure. It would have just been, yeah, we know step increase on that one, but.
Yeah, kind of jumped out at me. And then as Joe was pointing out before, the liability insurance is going through the roof. That's across the board. I also saw a large increase in your consultant services, medical non-health on page 340, 571,820. Went up by 10 grand. And year to date in June, it was $1,000. 2023, it was only $15,000. And now you're requesting 25.
We have been, some internal work that needs to be done that will not fall under FAA programming, mainly roof replacements. And there's going to be some design costs that are one of that are going to play a role in that. So we're anticipating that we will have some, at least 2 roof systems that are going to need to be evaluated.
The
And
hangar roofs or the main building?
Hangar roofs, yeah.
Anything on the main building?
Which main building, the terminal?
Mhm.
No.
Okay, other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. So let's move on to the capital plan for the airport. On page 4, it's the top items. I'd like to get a motion in a second.
So move second.
Legislator Menuda and Legislator Benton, thank you. Would you like to highlight anything?
The biggest thing you're gonna see here is the construct commercial hangars. It's obviously gonna pop out everybody on there. And but probably good to give a little bit of an overview of that. And I'll talk to maybe a few seconds here and let Ed do so. And he's been working closely with a consultant who's done a really elaborate financial analysis on that. The return on the investment over a number of years, like I said in the opening remarks, that getting larger hangars to the airport and getting the corporate jets in here that use a tremendous amount of fuel and revenue to the county's airport budget. And then meeting, and there's a certain number that Ed can get into, a certain number of takeoffs and landings for those size airplanes that then also make us eligible for more federal funding. And then that then helps the airport grow as well and in those investments, and then ultimately getting to the private investments that we eventually would like to get to. But Ed, you want to?
Sure.
Ed is much more educated on these than I am.
So the airport's kind of at a decision point as far as where it wants to go in the corporate aircraft world. Right now, we have waiting lists for everything. We have capacity requests from various entities that are looking for space. We just had one hangar become vacant and it filled within 30 days. The FAA will not give us a runway extension until we demonstrate at least 500 jet takeoff and landings annually. And they have to be specific jets, not, a Citation 2 built in 1970. They're looking for Falcons, they're looking for Embraer, Bombardier, all these major companies that produce business jets. We do get a decent amount of that business from charter, but they're not based here. They come in, they'll drop off passengers, they'll pay the ramp fee, maybe buy fuel, but then they're on their way out. So we only get limited takeoff and landings from that. So the way we're going to be able to generate more funding when it comes to a runway extension will be through having based aircraft that are jet or mid-sized jet or higher. So our state consultant for state projects has been working, with the airport for about a year and a half, developing some plans to take our 2 state grants that we have for hangar construction and convert them into hangars that are going to be able to accommodate these type of aircraft. That's going to require an investment on the part of the county, with the payback being that they largely will pay for themselves over a 25-year period. And then the fuel sales will add to that. And then on top of that, by getting the requisite takeoff and landings, we will get about $15 million to extend the runway. And if we extend the runway, then I can pretty assuredly say that the airport will be zero taxation because the activity will well outweigh the cost of running the airport. Right now, because I don't have anything else to rent and our costs continue to go up with contractual items and cost of construction, repairs, things like that. I recommend that we do move in the direction of investment because if we don't and we're not able to rent and sell more fuel because we don't have that type of aircraft base there, that our cost structure will require more support from taxation to keep the airport operational. So a lot of these plans that we're reviewing with the FAA and internally, with the commissioner, are kind of far thinking as to, where the airport is in the big scheme of things 5 years down the road. Several legislators went to Waterbury, Oxford several years ago when we were doing some evaluation, and Waterbury, Oxford 20 years ago was Orange County. And now Waterbury, Oxford is a reliever for your Teterboroughs, your JFKs and your bigger airports. So on here is these proposals to be able to make these investments. Now the FAA is also contributing in that they are providing funding for a lot of pavement, which is another area that the airport needs desperately. The $4 million project that we're actually paving today is part of that, and that will increase our capacity another 30 aircraft to be able to base at the airport. But again, these aren't jets, these are general aviation aircraft, which is needed, but it's not going to get us to the next level where we have the activity that will essentially make the airport's budget maybe $5 million or more annually to be able to support all of these different entities that are looking to do business. A couple of the quick examples: Home Depot flies at least semi-annually into the airport. with their Falcon. That's the biggest airplane I've been getting in right now. They have a distribution center on Neelytown Road, and their executives come in to evaluate their business processes. Charter Communications has recently come in. It's also a very big company. They choose to come to Orange County because it's easy in, easy out very quickly. They can get their executives on cars. They're out of the airport in 10 minutes. So that's really like that's a marketing boon that we really could take advantage of, but we will need to make these investments to get to the next level. So a lot of the capital plan is looking future forward in coordination with the state and with the FAA to get Orange County to the next level.
Legislator too, you got a question? Yeah, and when you opened up the new runway a few years ago, I think it could accommodate a 737. Is that correct?
No, we're not going to ever see commercial traffic. Stewart is going to see commercial traffic, but Stewart's got other challenges that, it's kind of beyond the scope of this conversation. But the type of aircraft that we are looking to get, companies, their flight departments have kind of this, like in baseball, if you hit over 200, you survive in the major leagues. If you don't, you go to the minor leagues. Well, in aviation, you need 5,500 feet to really capture most of the companies that are out there that will be willing to come in based on insurance reasons and so on. Our runway is 5,060. Now, we will get some of that business. Case in point, NetJets, Home Depot elects to come in because it's an advantage for them.
And they're all just corporate jets.
Those are corporate jets.
What's the biggest corporate jet?
We can take a Global Express, which is what I consider upper mid-size or a Gulfstream. Sullivan County Airport, 6,200 feet, and they can get pretty much the largest corporate jet. They won't get any airliners going in there. And the reason is because the runway is not built to handle that weight. The capacity of the runways for that type of aircraft can't be over 85,000 pounds. And a jet, a commercial jet is going to weigh more than that.
Thanks.
Sure.
Legislative Menuda. Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to preface it this way. Is there enough saturation in the market for a new hangar of this caliber? My understanding is that new corporate hangars are being either are in the process of being approved or were approved at Stewart Airport. I just want to know if there's enough saturation in the market for this. But I do appreciate your forethought in making this county airport self-sufficient by the longer runway and what needs to be done. So,
yes, sir. The best thing I can say is I'll point to something that that's difficult with airports in general, not just Stewart. The World War II hangar that was next to the terminal was knocked down, I want to say at least 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. Anybody see anything replace it? It's very difficult. And there's a lot of talk right now about hangars being approved and built. That talk was going on 5, 6 years ago too.
you're talking about Stewart Airport?
Sure.
Right. So my understanding has been approved.
Well,
It needs to be vetted.
Signature, who's one of the FBOs there, had the ability to build that hangar 5 years ago, and they didn't.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of other factors involved, and I'm not really privy to a lot of the internal things that go on. But one of the big challenges is approval doesn't mean an actual space. It's sometimes the approval is the easy part. It's actually getting the infrastructure built that is the tougher part. And you have 2 FBOs over there that are the biggest FBOs in the country, and even they struggle to be able to get these things built. And it's for a variety of reasons. It's probably outside of our scope.
Appreciate that. And then I'm really happy to see I was out to the airport, very happy to see the roof replacement monies here because I've seen some of the roofs and they really do need it. So.
Yes, sir. We do need to make investment in that. Again, a lot of these roof systems are over 30 years old. So, they need attention. One of the challenges we have is I'm trying to get FAA money to pay for some of the roof systems, and it's really marginal whether or not it's allowable. So we'll see. We're going to try. And if we do, then we'll save ourselves some internal funding.
Thank you.
Legislator Tortel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So going to that, item number 1 on here, your hangar E and F roof replacement, you're indicating that $675,000 of the $750,000 project will be covered by federal aid, and $37,500 with a match from the county at $37,500. So you just said that it's sketchy as to whether we're going to get that $675,000?
Well, it has to be approved via the AIP handbook, which is the FAA's manual to determine whether things are approved. This money is considered bill money, the bipartisan infrastructure law. And that's why there's been some more leniency when it comes to certain money. Bless you. So we are making the attempt to use bill funding for this project. I'm not guaranteed that, but if I don't try to do it, I'll never know whether or not it's approved.
And would the project proceed without this federal aid?
You'll have to, otherwise we won't be able to rent the space.
We have to come back. We have to come back to the legislature to get the extra money.
Yeah, because that's a heavy lift, even with the revenue streams. Then we go down a little further, back to the commercial hangar construction. So you have currently how many hangars?
We have 6 that hold 8 tenants.
8.
So there's one
8
hangar
tenants
has
in
3
total?
tenants,
Yeah, okay.
but there's 6 physical hangars that are commercially utilized
And they're completely full.
with a dozen waiting lists.
A dozen on the wait list. Okay. So I'm looking at the overall of all the capital improvement projects. And I'm seeing that of all of these projects, you have a borrowing total of $4,490,000. And that's because of the commercial hangar construction borrowing of $4,200,000. I'm a little leery. I know you're saying you have a waiting list, but I also know, like Joe said, that they're in the process of, they've approved the construction of the hangar at Stewart. And Stewart has a different type of facility setting than what we have in our county airport that would attract a commercial client more so than what we would bill ours at.
I'm not sure that's entirely correct, but
Different
That's their
set,
opinion.
different set of like apples and oranges, kind of.
there's a lot of factors that go in. There are some small airports that actually do more business than commercial airports. Actually, Stewart probably has less activity than it could based on its capacity. But there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not linear. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah, I'm not going on the commercial flight side, the big jets. I'm going on the private jet, corporate jet. That's where my mindset is on this. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, you've got a $6,200,000 project for a commercial hangar. You're borrowing 4.2.
It's for two hangars. That's
For 2 hangars.
Yeah.
It just says commercial construction, commercial hangar. It's not plural on here. So that should be something
it's
that's.
plural.
That should be something that's clarified then in our books. And it's 2 million of that, is state aid. 4.2 million is county borrowing. Is that over the course of the project? What's the construction length on this from, design to shovel in the ground to completion and moving it?
Probably 18 months.
18 months on that. And what do you see as the return on investment for that, for those 2 hangars, for the rental capability, the income on that?
Increased fuel sales and a runway extension, which is worth about $13 to $14 million.
Yeah, you said 15 before.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the 15 before when he was talking. And then I am happy that you are getting, especially if you get that 675, you're getting out of these projects 2.7 million in state aid and 150,000, or excuse me, in federal aid and 150,000 in state aid.
Yeah, I'd like to say we run the airport pretty efficiently in the big scheme of things. So a lot of the spending of the money is really earmarked toward investment versus consumption. So a lot of the proposals you see here are looking from the prospect that if we don't add inventory, we will start to need taxation to run the airport because costs will continue to go up and there's a ceiling as to how much you can charge for rents. So if we want to have it self-sufficient, then investment's going to be required. That's just my financial opinion.
And speaking of investments, when these commercial planes land, do they all come through the terminal?
Well, they're not commercial, they're corporate.
Corporate planes
Yeah,
land.
they drop off passengers, some come to the terminal, some wait in the terminal. Most of them have car service or they have an enterprise rental car that they take with them. And they bring it back and then they leave in the same fashion.
And is there anything in the works for upgrading the terminal and or the workspace for the current employees working out there?
Terminal doesn't bring a lot of revenue on the front end, so it's not really looked at as the leader. I think that if we have the type of volume that requires a terminal, then we'll also have to look at an FBO to run FBO services, because then you're going to need 20-hour-a-day services for these aircraft. They're not, these type of aircraft aren't going to sit there and say, well, you know, there's no personnel available at 9 o'clock. We'll wait till tomorrow to take off. They'll expect that.
I'm thinking more along the lines of aesthetics and design on that end, because obviously the corporate person is not going into the hangar. They're getting it on and off the jet by the terminal. So that I'm thinking more along those lines.
Most of your corporate customers want to be in and out quick. That's their primary decider. Whether or not there's a fancy building or amenities, that's like secondary. If they have to wait a half hour to get out, they're going to go to the place that they can get out in 10 minutes. So that's really, there's certain priorities when it comes to that type of business, which is why we get some of that shorter business. They could go to Stewart, but they come here. And so I think that we have certain things that give us an opportunity to really expand the airport.
And are we overall cheaper for them to land at us
Yes.
versus Stewart by 20%, 30%?
You know, I don't know, because each group has different relationships with the FBOs over there. We have a standard rate for airplanes, depending on whether they're requesting services or just using the ramp. But we consistently apply the same fee unless they buy fuel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Legislator Bennett. Okay, so for hangar E and F roof replacement, what do we rent that those two buildings rental per month?
F is about 1,600 to 1,700 a month. And depending on which hangar in E, because there's 3 separate hangars in that building, run between 1,900 and change per month.
Okay, so total is?
It's each one. So you're looking at
1,600 times 100.
5,700 for E and 1,800 for F per month.
All right, so $7,500 a month. Okay, so $7,500 a month times 12, times how long is the roof expected to last? 30 years?
2025.
Okay.
20.
So that's a lot of money.
22 million.
What? So that's a lot of money
22
that we're getting in rental over
Oh, yeah.
25
Oh, yeah.
years. We're only spending hopefully nothing, or hopefully 37, but if we have to, 675, big difference.
Well, so legislators understand the main reason why the airport's able to function without asking for taxation really is because of real estate.
Right.
And
Okay,
an investment in real estate would be the follow-on to that.
right. So next, for the $6 million building, what are we expecting that to be able to be rented for a month?
Well, there's 2 buildings, one's 20,000 square feet, the other's 12.
Right.
And
Just the total.
it's mainly per square foot is what we're evaluating. So we're looking at probably about $11 or $12 a square foot. That's our conservative estimate right now. And then if you run the numbers out, you know,
That's what I
hundreds of
want.
thousands.
Just run the numbers out.
Well, in
What would
our,
the rough-
in our proposal that we put together with the consultant, that's all spelled out.
Okay,
We
well,
have that
I see
all.
that. I'm just saying, off the top of your head, how much is it
So that's
approximately?
per square foot per month?
Yeah, it's,
That's gonna be over 200,000 for one of them, over,
yeah, per year.
over 100 something. So you, it looks like you're talking close to 400,000 a month.
No, no.
350 a month?
and-
Oh, they're annual.
Annual.
450.
Yeah.
$400,000, let's say $400,000 a year for another 25 years at least.
Yes.
You know, so that's a lot more than $6 million.
But the cost of construction obviously is a lot higher than it was. So if you're looking at
I'm
right
just showing
now,
that it's profitable, like
Sure.
you're saying.
yeah, you're looking at $300 a square foot. You know, I wish it was less because then our profit would even be better.
Okay.
But
That's all right.
Keep in mind, I'm sorry, that's right. Keep
I
in
know.
mind, we got 200,000 coming from, 2 million coming from state aid, so it's not 6.2.
yeah, and that obviously
I
the,
just wanted to quantify our profitability.
It just makes it even better is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
It's all there, it's all the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the
Thank you,
analysis
Mr.
done by the consultants was in favor of doing the project, and none of it really mentions the economic benefit to the area.
Well, yeah, that's secondary.
An additional bonus.
Thank you.
Any
That's all I
further,
wanted to say.
sorry, any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry, sir.
No, free to talk about it. It's good.
Yeah.
The small watershed public solution.
We have in the past.
Okay, all right. So before we get to sanitation and sewer, starting on page 345 through, I guess it'd be 353. We have a number of small items, one being the Small Watershed Protection Fund, Beaver Dam Lake. Cromline Creek and Wallkill local flood budgets. So I'd like to get a motion and a second on these. Legislator Tui,
Second.
Legislator Ben. And then I assume the other sanitation that starts on 357 is environmental facilities, right?
Correct.
All right. Just want to go through them one at a time for us, explain what it is and.
Yeah, I mean, these are all special districts. I think Beaver Dam Lake is the first. My title, I'm considered administrative head of the advisory board of Beaver Dam Lake. So we have the dam, which is the most significant part of the infrastructure there, that's owned by the county that we just finished reconstructing 2 years ago. There's a number of small reserve properties that are technically owned by the county around the lake. People have lake access to it. We typically have a part-time employee there who actually just retired. So we're looking to fill that vacancy. Board of Advisors works closely. They prepare their own budget. They work with Melinda in our office and they come up with something that they're comfortable with full disclosure to the community there through their own public meetings. So basically what you see here is what they proposed to us with our assistance and helping them work through our process.
Okay, any questions on Beaver Dam Lake? All right, let's move on then to Cromline Creek.
Cromline is a special district over in Chester, the village of Chester, along the Black Dirt. There's a number of farmlands there and surrounding residential areas that require, there's a pump station for large storms to protect the farmland, protect the properties in general. Pumps the stormwater downstream. We do have a capital project for that, which is going to replace the entire pump station and the pumps, which is very much needed because of the constant maintenance that has been required because those pumps are literally just limping along. So there's risk out there That project is included in, we'll be back, I guess, with Kerry and Deb potentially to include, it's already included in the ARPA project list, I believe. We put some more funds towards that because of we did just get bids into the project. So we can get that funded. It's way too small of a district to handle the cost of that project, which is at least $1 million. Close to $3.5 million project for very small people. So that we're looking to do through ARPA funding, and there'll be more to come is next month's meeting regarding that.
Any questions on that? All right, Walker local flood.
Sure. The Walker Local Flood is set up to maintain an Army Corps of Engineers project that was completed in the 1980s that ran from the New Jersey state line along the Walkill River to what we call Pellets Island Bridge, which I believe is Maple Avenue in the town of Goshen. The county and 4 municipalities, I believe, have all joined and contribute to this fund, which is basically managed by Kevin Sumner, which I think he was here a little bit earlier today.
Questions or comments on that? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question on the small watershed protection fund. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right, now we can move on to environmental facilities and services. And we'll cover everything under one motion from 345 to 375. Could I get a motion in a second? Second. Menuda. Legislator, okay, go ahead.
The beginning is, I believe, just the administrative budget for both, and then EF&S encompasses both the landfill, which is the transfer stations for the municipal solid waste and the recycling, as well as the sewer district, Orange Sewer District, the one, so our administration falls under, it is split, if you will, between those two, and expense properly between the two. One has taxation, one does not because it's a special district, being the sewer district. So you'll see that in here. Obviously, the administrative positions are affected by the CSDA agreement for the new 40 hours and then 4% raise on top. So you're going to see increases there accordingly. So I'll pause there until we get to the specifics on the landfill budgets and sewer budgets.
Questions or comments on this portion of the budget? Okay, let's move on. Landfill.
All right, so the landfill, generally our focus of our efforts there for the budget is determining whether or not we need to increase the tipping fees for the MSW as well as the SSR, which is single stream recycling. We obviously have to look at other rates as well for some of the other commodities for recycling or staff handles. The budget currently proposes a $2 increase on both MSW and SSR. We do an analysis that compares other facilities in the area where people have options to bring those materials to. So we can't just straight up look at our expenses and say we need to cover, for instance, the 40-hour increase in the CSDA budget. There are things that we need to make sure that we're considering from outside impact on where our tipping fees are going to be. We don't want to basically price ourselves out of the market, because if we get less tonnage, we're going to have less revenue. So we have to try to find that balance. So we compare where we're at compared to the neighboring type facilities. Right now, we're in a pretty good spot there. We're right about maybe slightly above the middle in comparison to neighboring. And for the $2 increase, I think is appropriate. We do typically have some taxation that is, complements our budget. We do have that here. We have seen a decrease in tonnage over the last few years, certainly COVID has impacted us a little bit. We did close the Newbury transfer station, part of it anyway. And we are seeing some more competition in the area as well. So we think the $2 for now is appropriate as long as the amount of surplus and taxation is acceptable. I think that's kind of where we're at there. We do have bids coming in soon for the hauling of MSW and SS in Single Stream. But in a nutshell, that's where we're at, so.
When are those bids due to come in?
I believe we need to get the contracts in by the end of the year, so. Yeah, they're supposed to be going out very soon.
Oh, they're not out on the street
Are
yet.
they out yet? No, they're in for review to send it out to bid it, get those out.
Questions or comments? Legislative Menuda.
So just budgetarily, with regard to supply and demand, we saw some decrease, and we saw some carting going to other facilities. That's contingent on the bid, right, the bid process, and amounts. So if that is, let's say that's not in our favor, how does that affect this budget?
So in other words, if the bids come in higher than expected for the hauling, right, and we feel we can't increase our tipping fees so high to sort of accommodate. That's your question right there. We've had in the past had to come back to the legislature to talk through that and see where we, to ask for extra money if necessary. Part of this, I think, some will argue that these services are it's public service in a sense, so we do try to make it as self-sustainable as possible, self-sufficient, almost like a business, but it's not there. There is certainly taxation. I think there's an argument there that it is a public service. But that was essentially what we would have to do is come back. If it wasn't within our budget, we'd have to come back and do that. We potentially would have to come back to increase tipping fees even a little bit more, but again, we do that with the risk of losing tonnage. So we could take a closer look, whether it was another $1 or $2 is a small percentage in comparison to where we're at. I think we were at, 120 something for 2024. I think $128.25 for MSW, and I think it was 120 for single stream. So obviously a $2 increase is less than 2%, right, on those numbers. So another $2 on top of that would be less than another 2%. They're small percentages in comparison. We could potentially come back and increase it slightly more. We're just cautious because our tonnage is not quite what we want it right now, and so we're doing that in increments, I guess.
Echo my concerns. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Other legislators, Cautel.
Thank you. Page 363, number 560970. Looks like there was $363 in it for 2023, nothing for 2024. And then a proposal of $55,054 for 2025. Your chart says there's only one position with that title. And I don't see that it's reflected, at least not the entire amount in your vacation, your austerity budget. So I'm kind of curious about that position.
Yeah, so I definitely see where I understand why you're asking about that. I can see there's a 0, and then it goes up. And
That for sure, it's a 0.
yeah, so it is it's a full-time, listed as one of our full-time vacancies. And it must have not been,
Well, I don't believe it was.
it wasn't budgeted for this year, correct?
But it wasn't budgeted for 2024, but you're budgeting it for 2025.
Correct.
Was it in austerity in 2024?
No, it wasn't.
It just was
not.
the position was not funded, period. And you have nobody currently in that position?
Correct. We have it on our vacancy list.
And there was nobody in that position then for the last 3 years, obviously? So,
4 years. 21.
Are you currently actively interviewing for this position?
Well, we're trying to fill. Well,
Is it off of a civil service list?
this would be, yeah. Well, I believe so. So if it's a civil service position, Whether it's competitive or not, I believe it is, but I'm not 100% sure about that. That's where would they have to take an exam or not? That I'm not sure.
Just because this is, and I know it's, you know, when you go over the total amount of budget, it's kind of chunk change, but every little bit helps. I'm gonna make a motion that we take that $55,054 out of county taxation and move it into their austerity budget 586,990. Just because this position has not been filled in 3 years, I would actually move to not fund the position at all. But you're telling me you're actively seeking the position, so until that is.
Can you explain that to me?
I'm saying to take take $55,054, which is what is budgeted under that line, the
She wants
five.
to defund the position and put it in austerity, but that doesn't make sense. If you can't have austerity unless you have something funded.
Right, so I think she's saying leave the position in the budget, but add an austerity to it, but offset
Is that
with
what you
county
wanted to
taxation, is that? Or you're saying take the position out altogether?
Oh, we let her say what she wants to say.
Thank you. What I would say then is to take the position out. Add out of county taxation, however, add $55,054 to austerity.
But if you're taking the position,
You can't take that out.
out, then.
How do I move it into austerity?
Well, we could take
That's
it
what I'm trying to
from-
do.
Okay, so you can take 560970, take it out of 55054 and add it to 560320.
That was what I was trying to say from the beginning. That's what I was trying to say from the beginning, but then everybody kind of jumped up.
Question.
I've made.
Well, I need
I've
to get a
made,
second first.
I'll second.
Okay, legislator Duke. Hang on. Legislator Ben.
Okay, so if you leave it in the budget, every pay period that they don't fill it, you're creating austerity. Because that money will then move over into that austerity column. So I don't think this makes sense.
It's
When
taxed from the beginning.
Huh?
It's taxed from the beginning.
Well, they expect to fill the position fairly shortly, I would.
They said that
assume.
about 5 positions on this paper.
Well, okay, but I just don't think
And
this
it hasn't
function
been
makes
filled.
sense.
That doesn't change the taxation status. It doesn't do
It doesn't
anything
do
to
anything.
taxation.
that's what I was trying to do to reduce the.
Cancels
Then
itself out.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay, no, it's just discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
And I will correct that motion and say that we take the $55,054 from auto mechanic, 560,970 out of the budget and out of county taxation.
Okay, so that would be then, benefits also.
Yes, that and the benefits, to defund the position, and if indeed it does get filled after 3 vacant years, they can come back to personnel and compensation and us.
You can't go with something.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
Is that, yeah, 5 positions, it says every position currently budgeted is essential, okay? But that, I asked the question, is it vacant for more than 1 year, and you put 5 positions, so you have 5 positions that haven't been funded for over a year, and you haven't been able to fill them, I mean, some of them might be 3 or 5 years, right? So we're asking to take 1 out instead of leaving 5 that are funded and tax people on, when there's an opportunity to at least do 1 of them, when you have 5 of them that aren't filled. And have been there for more than a year. I mean, I would think, I'm not a budget guy really, but I'm just saying, if we haven't filled them for 3 years, why would we fund them? We know we're not gonna get it. We could always come back if there was this specific need for them, instead of just leaving them in and taxing people and then giving money back every year. I mean, that's how you talk about it every year, be mean about it, but that's how I think so.
Well,
And that's what Lori's doing here.
And I just wanted to, just so you understand that the language in there, when we say these positions are critical positions, it's, and just because they haven't been filled in years doesn't mean they're not important critical positions. It means that we have staff working overtime hours because we're short on staff. We have the third maintenance that goes on longer and longer because we can't get to items, things like that come about. We had trouble filling positions, obviously, with the lack of 40-hour payment for the last number of years. So there's been a whole lot of moving parts of why the positions aren't filled. They're not filled because we don't need them. They're not filled because of a number of various reasons that there have been struggles on our part. There are struggles that are affecting us.
Okay, thank you. Legislator Tortel.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. There is the tune throughout this budget over $36 million of funded positions that are unfilled. And I think little by little, as we see a position that hasn't been filled in 3 years, we should put it in abeyance until something else happens. That we need to start doing that across the budget. $36 million of taxpayer money, that's like, hitting the lotto to about 10 or 12 people in our county. It makes a difference.
Thank you. Any other questions? Legislator Feller.
Are you underrunning your overtime budget? Or do you anticipate your overtime budget to be less if you fill these positions for next year?
Yes.
Are you dropping that in your budget request?
No.
But we have filled.
Overtime.
If you fill them,
We would definitely anticipate
your overtime,
overtime to come
but
down.
your ask for the overtime, you didn't drop your overtime request.
I don't know about that.
No, it stayed flat, 244 million. It's right above it, 560.
Those are things though that we don't, if we're unable to fill it, those would be in trouble. But obviously, if we don't, one way or another, then some of the money might not get spent if that would happen. We don't fill the positions. But,
Yeah, I fully understand and appreciate that. The extra. You plan on filling positions and you're improving them, then your overtime budget should go up.
Right, but we've also had significant increases in what the labor we're gonna pay now with the union agreement. So somewhere it goes up. You follow me?
Yeah.
Legislator Menuda.
Hi, thanks. So I'd just like to see some like really sweeping items. I mean, we talk about micromanaging a little. I mean, at 401,000 people in this county, it's 13 cents a person. So, I mean, what are we doing here for, 55 grand? They need the position, they'll use the position, We see, we're almost $1 billion budget. We're quibbling over 55 grand.
I agree.
Just to that point, we return 12 to 16 million dollars every year because of that, whether it's consulting fees or vacant but funded positions. So every little bit counts here, taxpayers, I'm sure of that. And I just want to make clear that this proposal that you said, Laura, was to take 55, go 54,
Plus the
and add it to
benefits.
vacation austerity and reduce
Nope,
taxation.
not anymore. Just because they said it wouldn't reduce taxation by moving it into vacation austerity. I said to basically defund the position, leave the title there, and if they need the money, then come back.
And I have the austerity, so, between salary and benefits, it would be 106,572.
So benefits are more than salary?
Yeah. Wow.
It's pretty close.
Used to be 32%, now it's closer to like 48%.
Insurance.
Minority Leader position.
So you're actually adding the minus to the vacancy austerity, right? You just eliminate the position
No,
altogether?
we're gonna reduce that position and we're gonna reduce it from county taxation.
Okay.
Property
I
tax.
mean, it's the same thing as doing it, right? They put it in personnel austerity, right?
Yeah.
Really? Why not?
Because it doesn't reduce taxation.
We're gonna reduce taxation because she would be putting it,
Well, they'd have to reduce the taxation by not spending it, right?
no, she was just gonna take it from the auto mechanic and put it in the vacancy austerity, so that would reduce taxation. But now she's asking.
Removing it. Okay, fair enough.
Right.
Make sure.
Now I will ask for a vote on this amendment. Everybody clear on what the amendment is? Roll call, please.
Shannon,
No.
Heller,
Oh,
you,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Scabby,
No.
Dewey,
No.
Nuda,
No.
Cheney,
No.
motion carried.
Okay. Now we're back on the whole budget. Any other questions on landfill? Minority Leader.
Yeah, just on page 364, the consulting services, non-medical health, you had $93,000 in your budget for this year. You've only spent 110 last year, none this year. Is there something big you see happening here?
that item again, I'm sorry.
It's 571820. It's like a third of the way down, almost half the way
Got it.
down.
It's like engineering consultant stuff.
Yeah.
That's a little number, though. We're looking at, typically, we have a lot of engineering services that work around the landfill to meet the DEC requirements and everything. I do see what you mean, though, the 2023 allowance is lower. Is there anything on that, Deb, Jason, you want to answer that? I'm not sure about why it's so low in 2023. We budgeted 93. We're actually looking to budget less this year than we did last year, right? But your concern is the 2023 actual in comparison, is that what you're? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think it has some explanation. There was, some future services that might not be done under a capital project.
Yeah.
That's
That was-
what that would
Okay.
be.
Okay, yeah.
They were what kind of services? David?
Future services that would not be considered under a capital project.
So what are they? What services are you talking about?
It could be cornerstone.
Yeah, it could be, DEC, the regulations, and, we use a consultant for that kind of stuff, which is not kind of.
Okay, and then I just want to compare some here, then specialty materials and specialty payments. Why aren't they the same line? Because you're paying for stuff out of specialty stuff.
So materials is a commodity. Payments, specialty payments is a service.
So you're buying a physical object versus somebody's doing.
I get it. I guess that's all I have.
Legislator Benton, did you want to offer?
Yeah, for this non-consultant medical services, is for purpose of delineation, like maybe like next year, is that where we could label it engineering? Compensation or something like that?
Yeah, it would actually make it easier.
That
for us
would,
to keep track.
just like we did for others this year, it would clear it up for the future. Remember that.
Anything else on landfill before we move on? Okay. So we're moving on to the sewer section, Orange County Sewer District number 1.
Okay, so you should see in the budget approximate rate increase of about 2.9%. That's a sewer rate. 2024 to 2025, I believe the unit per year was $519. $519.94 this year, proposed to go up to $535 per unit per year. And that's generally going to cover like O&M and usage. We do have some debt service in there that it also goes into some of the fees. We have a contract that's coming up with our consultant who runs one of the KJ sewer plant. So that's potentially going out for the fee. We do, from a capital standpoint, the biggest thing is going to be the Harriman Sewage Treatment Plant Expansion Project, which we cover under capital, but that's the most significant thing we have going on right now. Obviously, we have significant growth going on, which fits the need for that sewer expansion. That growth is also adding more units on to the district, so there are more customers basically to say that we're paying into the district. We also have our outside communities that go into that, but they bill their customers separately. One bill coming from us.
Questions or comments? Legislator Tortel.
Thank you. Page 371, 561000, Assistant Sanitary, excuse me, Engineer EFS.
Can you say that one again?
561000, Assistant San Eng EFS. That position created this year. Is that, if you look in the grid, it was zeroed.
Yeah, it was moved from the admin line, so it was in admin, but it should have been here.
Okay, so it was in an admin line and then it got put into this line.
It was over in the admin budget for environmental facilities and
Right.
services.
That's, yeah. Okay. And that, that's a CSEA job too, correct?
Yes. Yes.
That's my only question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Legislator Tru.
Yeah, with the staffing, see you have an associate clerk and also a principal account clerk. Is that all the administration that you have dealing with, incoming payments for the sewer services? Or they have other staff that,
There's a few more than just those couple of positions, yes. But we have been very short-staffed on that end. Jason Dexter's great hire, he's our new grade 14 down there.
Okay.
He's basically running fiscal staff down there right now.
because, when you stop having payments, the office down in Harriman, now it has to go mailed in. And I get a lot of complaints that it takes 2 months, sometimes 3 months for the check to clear. And with seniors that are on a fixed budget, I know.
Yeah,
Everybody always says, well, they should leave it in there, but if it's in there for 3 months
Yeah.
and life happens and they end up spending it, then the check bounces and they owe more money to the sewer district.
Yeah, we just had a recent, we got extremely short-staffed this year because we lost a few people in very close proximity to one another. So we definitely had some delays that were associated with that. And maybe even some of the billing, some of the software issues too, but we've hired new people. Jason's new, Justin's been doing a great job. I anticipate that we wouldn't see delays like that in the future now because we're staffing back up. Was there any other reason, Jason, I might be leaving out? That pretty much covers it? Yeah, and we definitely were in the
And I
best.
haven't heard anything lately, so.
Yeah, we were,
Could be catching up.
things were getting very backed up for a period of time because we lost a lot of people. And then we were trying to pull from our other fiscal staff around the office to try to help, from DPW portions of it and highway portions to try to help supplement that, but we're getting in a much better spot now, and we're still looking to hire more.
Great, thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Minority Leader
Thank you,
Padu.
Chairman. Same page 374. The top three of the inspection fees that new this year, 175,000 for what? I mean, what kind of inspections weren't you doing?
So I think this may be moved from another line item. Do we know if that got moved up from somewhere else? The inspection fees,
577113.
yeah, so the thing is, it was 0 in the previous year, so it should be, so it must have been moved from somewhere else, but we have inspection fees for, any sewer lateral we put in, it has inspection fees associated with it.
Either that or it's an inspection fee on what I mean.
Because what we basically, well, it's under contractual expenditures, so any lateral that goes in, we pay a consultant typically to inspect that main for us. We don't have that
So you haven't been
lateral.
doing that?
No, we've been doing it, as I'm saying, I think it was in a different part of the budget.
571820 on page 372 has a reduction of 160,000.
Yeah.
That may, I don't know that it does, but
Is that
pretty
right?
close.
What did you say, Chairman?
On page 372, there's the line item consultant services, non-medical health, 571820 is showing a reduction of $160,000.
Which makes absolute sense, because that's.
So
it's gonna be a
here
line
we're
item.
seeing 175 being added.
That's what, it absolutely always
Is
has
that
to
right?
be them.
Okay.
Should be pretty
Yeah, I
close.
don't see a negative.
Yep.
5.0.
No, I'm sorry. That's a positive?
Right, and
Never
then this one's a
mind.
positive.
Never mind. Get 'em. Nice.
Mine's missing the minus sign.
It could have come from specialty payments,
Where's Wolf?
576820. Because that had a reduction of 320,000, so I'm thinking.
And I think to a point earlier, specialty payments could be a little bit confusing sometimes because they're not categorized. So putting it into something that's called inspection fees is more transparency, we'll see where it's coming from. But then, we absolutely have been doing that all the time for years and years. We've had contracts with consultants to do inspections for us.
I'm just saying, you know, when we see it, and I see it.
No, absolutely. It's confusing. No, it's a good question.
Makes sense. Question.
All right, then the next one down, rubbish removal building. What is that?
They got trash.
Yes, the trash.
So it's,
bill.
yeah,
It's what?
consulting services to remove our trash from our buildings.
You can get a
I think you
dumpster.
consult for that. Huh? Not
And get a
consult, did I say
dumpster.
consulting?
Does that-
I'd say contractual.
include sludge?
I'm just,
Would include recycling probably too.
I see how much it is for 23, and then I understand an increase to 24, but you haven't spent anything, so nobody's picking up garbage or?
Yeah, I think it's also sludge removal in there as well.
No, there's.
There's a line for that.
Down there.
There's sewage removal.
We have to check on it. Yeah, I don't know why the year to date, I mean, you can see in previous years, we spent almost $500,000 on it. And their contractual services are typically going up
Check
every
to
year.
see what the number is on that.
You're very behind with due to staffing issues with paying. giving the
That's
bill
probably
more,
what,
and that
that's
was-
probably why you're seeing, you're right, thanks, Carrie, that's probably why you're seeing that.
You
Because
lost your-
going back to what we said earlier about us being very short on fiscal staff, and a lot of the billing and the tracking got was very far behind, so that's probably why you're seeing year to date through June of this year being only $8,000.
Yeah, but then right under it too, then what's the waste removal was 0, now it's 170.
That must have been something that was
And
moved
again,
from another
and
line.
again,
item.
it's probably flat on stuff.
Yeah, that wasn't budgeted last year in that line item, so I think that might be a new line item that moved from
Yeah,
another.
I would think the sludge is either under waste removal or sewage removal, that's where that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
it's
those
definitely not in that.
As opposed to having been in rubbish removal in the past. I remember that being an issue last year.
We're lucky we didn't get cut off.
Well, then I'm gonna make a proposal again to add that line, 579990 of minus 50K on contractual expenditures. And if you look through there, to me, there's a lot more than that.
Which
So
one?
what revenue source would be taking it out?
Taxation.
They don't have taxation.
Oh, they don't have that?
No.
This is a
Because
special
it's
district.
a special district.
I would let them pick. Their job, you want me to pick one? I'll pick one. How about that waste removal thing that we're not sure about? It's gonna stay in that line, right? It's not coming from somewhere.
No, but it has to go to a revenue source. So if you're taking it out of an expense,
Yeah.
they have to reduce it from a revenue source. So that would be the 4 categories.
And this is all user fees, so what?
It's not gonna
Yeah.
affect taxation.
Can affect anything.
Okay, fair enough. We'll move forward.
You want to withdraw that?
Just yeah, I'll withdraw that.
Thank you.
Just that we gotta have a little bit better clarification on some of these things, though, instead of asking all these questions, if it was, like, I knew that got moved from here or highlighted or something, you know?
No, I think they've shown they're trying to do that.
Yeah, no, I know they
Like
are,
that.
they've been great with it, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying, that's why there's so many questions. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Legislator Tuttle.
Not correctly with you. Deb, going forward, if something has been moved or shifted from one thing to another,
Yeah.
can we either get that in a preemptive note?
Yeah.
Or can there be an MVD next to the next to the line in the description, something along those lines, it would eliminate a lot of general confusion when there's a shuffle around.
Capital.
All right,
I think that's.
any further discussion on the EF&S budget, operating budget? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, let's move on to the capital plan and items 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, and 70. Anything to highlight here?
So the first three, sanitation, I think, the biggest highlight is you have the collection system upgrade for the sewer system, so $53 million, so that's. Motion. Oh, sorry.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotta say Menuda. Thank you.
Yeah, the plant expansion, and you also have the collection system, the two different projects, but they're intertwined because obviously when we get the sewer plant 50% bigger to start with, we're gonna need bigger pipes to get it there. So that's gonna be a separate collection system capital project. We have our consultant working on the design of the sewer plant right now for the expansion. They're also including their contractors to work with us with DFC for funding. So we are having, I think every 2 months, we're meeting with DFC in a quick call just to give them an update where we're on our project. So the consultant will be helping us pursue additional funding and grant funds for our sewer collection system and eventually as well as for the collection system. They're not doing design for the collection, but we'll be bringing out both RFPs for the collection system design and construction management designs. Very, very soon.
Just a point of information. Those mains are going to be sized for the ultimate capacity at that site. We're expanding from 6 to 9 million now. We've looked at it and the site could handle 20 million gallons a day. We don't want to be changing those mains
No.
repeatedly over the next 15, 20 years, whatever it is. We're going to do it once.
Aren't they like 60?
Yeah, they're 5 feet, 10 foot. You know, they get bigger as they get closer. Yeah.
And the lifespan of those, just for,
Oh, yeah.
they're like
last-
25 years,
Oh, more
30?
than that. Yeah, more than, much more than that, yes.
So you're gonna build them to 20-year standard?
Correct. To the 20-year flow, we anticipate.
That's what I was thinking, 20-year standard, thank you.
What that site can handle with today's technology.
Taking up an extra inch.
20 years from now, that site may be able to handle more depending on treatment. Treatment methodologies are going to change. We know that in 20 years, what's happened to that computer you carry around in your pocket, right?
Long way from DOS.
Huh?
It's a long way from DOS.
Yeah.
Any questions on the capital plan?
I just have one quick thing to add. Just, I want to thank these guys and the rest of the team that have been working on this because it's been for this expansion and the longevity program for probably 5 or 6 years. This has been a major milestone now to take it into the design phase. And I just want to thank you all and Delaware Engineering and Anthony and everybody else that's helped along the way because it's huge.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your support as well.
Okay, no further discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Chairman,
Excuse me a second before I take the vote on that. Majority leader wanted to comment.
Chairman, thank you. We all sat here patiently today. We have a lot of great staffers in here today. And Commissioner, I just wanted to point out that sitting behind you today was Melinda Bender. And what is her title in your department?
Fiscal manager.
Well, let me tell you something. She is an absolute pro. She answered questions today, topically right on top of things, and she serves your department well. She serves the county well. So please extend to her my thank you for the way she answered questions today. She was right on top of things. And if we have more and more people like that in your department, which I'm sure we do, your department's in good hands. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Thanks, everybody.